Okay, wonderful. I think we're good to go. Hello, welcome everyone today to this special Halloween themed tournament that we have going. What we'll be doing specifically is a normal tournament. Here's the bracket. Except in games number 1 and 2, you have to pick Undead for the person in the top bracket. And then instead of banning factions, they ban 2 units and a hero or a lord. So this should be a pretty nice advantage to the undead. But they will be getting counterpicked. That's here. Yeah, they pick an undead faction, and then the bottom counters, and then the top 2 units. Yeah, and then they ban the lords and so on. But yeah, so undead, they should have a pretty nice advantage here. And in the ace match, it's going to be a monster mash where you have to bring fewer than 300 units along with a bunch of single entities. So that's the idea of the tournament. We'll go ahead and see if we can get into a fun match here. I see Dr. Jellyfish and Human Boy, so let's go ahead and spectate that. And as usual, since usually it takes a bit of time to set up the games, you can go ahead and jump to the timestamps in the video to watch the games. So I think that's about everything I needed to go over. Human Boy in chat too. Hello. Hey. All right. And yeah, that's the idea of the tournament. I guess while we wait, I would like to announce that we actually are partnering up and getting backed by LoremasterOfSotek, specifically his oh man, I already forgot. Specifically his Lorebeards podcast with all the links down below that you can go ahead and check out. And I would highly recommend it. Also, are my sound settings good? Seems like they might be a bit weird. Let me know if anything's too loud or too quiet. But yeah, we're partnering up with Lorebeards, so he'll be sending people my way to cover the ladder, and I'll be sending people his way to go over where he goes over all things Warhammer, lore, gameplay, and even multiplayer. I was on it myself, so I can say I do enjoy the podcast. Is he a human boy or a rat man? Perhaps both. Perhaps both, but I guess that doesn't make any sense at all. But hey, I see Zero is in chat. We got people picking the factions in now. Let's see. And what are we going to see in terms of bans? So in this case, it's going to be Dr. Jellyfish picking the undead faction, and he will be banning 2 units and a lord/hero. So we'll see what he decides to go for here. I'm not sure which factions he's playing either. So let's go ahead and see. It seems like he's playing the vampire counts, I believe, which has been suspected to be a rather powerful faction in this. And he's going to ban Alariel, Phoenix Guard, and Dragon Princes. So annihilating the High Elf elite forces, as is the theme with the tournament. The undead arise and are going to be making it a lot harder for factions to play against them. Unit bans means means high DLC factions are meta. In a sense, the thing is, undead factions, they have very specific counters, that being the elves primarily, and specific units/spells in the roster. So overall, it's less about having a ton of units and more about having a ton of the correct counters. But still, I think it will definitely help if a faction doesn't have many units. For example, the Beastmen, since variants are also banned along with the units that you choose, it's gonna be pretty rough for factions that have a lot of variants. Does Teclis have Tempest? Teclis does indeed not have Tempest. So that means Human Boy, he's either gonna have to go for a generic Lord, where their healing is going to be dampened a lot, or just work with Teclis and Nets. We'll have to see. Oh boy, so this is a really interesting tournament. For those of you that don't know too, by the way, the tournament ideas are provided by our wonderful patrons down below. I'll go over them at the end of the stream. But in this case, special thanks to, I think it was Bunny Arquette that provided the idea for this tournament and helped workshop it a lot along with AC Maiden. So pretty exciting. The ace match too is quite the idea. Just an under 300 army monster mash. That's gonna be pretty good. Also, I will be playing in this tournament too, so that should be quite exciting also. And real quick, let's see, by the way, for whoever faces me, wait till I'm done casting this best of 3. There we go. Yep, I'm using my admin tournament privileges to get players to wait for me. How terrible. How absolutely terrible. Now, in terms of the names that we have today, we do have Ice Power, we have Bowmore, we got Dr. Jellyfish, Human Boy, Bears, and AC Maiden. Actually, a lot of the mod team is playing today, including myself. So that means Ice Power, Jellyfish, and Bears. They're going to have their work cut out for them, but at least they've been reasonably spread out throughout the tournament bracket. And currently, armies are still being chosen. Now, usually this matchup is really favored for the High Elves because, one, they can bring absolutely devastating boxes, and they can go really wide with their range units. So Sisters of Avalorn, just devastating against the counts. They can go from mass archers to mass single entities, although with the Alarial band, that's going to be much weaker since the healing is so much weaker. And honestly, the Alarial band is pretty vicious. I think Teclis is still a really nice counter though, but that's going to be pretty rough. The Phoenix Guard band, going to be breaking the boxes pretty hard, which is only one build, so I don't know if that's going to really devastate the High Elves here. But the Dragon Princes do really shut down the ranged styles of play, since the High Elves here rely so heavily, not heavenly, on the Dragon Princes to shut down the Vampire Count's cavalry. So if I had to guess what we would see from Dr. Jellyfish, probably some Blood Knights, I would expect. And it looks like Dr. Jellyfish is ready. Human Boy looks like he may be ready too. Both players are readying up. And we'll be diving right on in just a second. So for those of you tuning in right now, the format, before we get into this game, is that one player picks an undead faction with no bans. They can get hard countered by another faction, and then the top bracket is going... and then the person playing the undead gets to ban 2 units and 1 hero or lord, which should put them in a pretty nice advantage here. But we will see. We will see. I'm also wondering if Vampire Counts is going to be the faction that we see all the time here. It's definitely a very strong... very strong faction to have. Or... It's a very strong faction in general, and they will be able to ban their specific hard counters, but I really wonder if the Vampire Coast is going to be pretty good here too. Like, you'll be able to shut down a lot of the chaff, and there's a lot of specific counters for Coast too. As for Tomb Kings, I'm not entirely sure, but I do hope to see them in this tournament. But as we get into the game, I will finally remember that I have to set up the scores. So let's go ahead and rush that out right now. So for Team RTK's Human Boy. Human Boy, occasionally with a yes. Also with a dash and a lowercase yes. Oh my gosh, Human Boy, why must your name be so complicated? You will be facing up against Dr. Jellyfish from the Son of the Mountain clan. Son of the Mountain. Dr. Jellyfish. Apologies for the late setting up of the scores, but we got there. And for the players, we're going to see a defensive single entity high elf build. Very similar to what you would usually see. Except with, you know, Phoenix Guard and Alariel instead. Human Boy opting for some single entities here, a Noble and various Phoenixes, even a Dragon. And it's going to be an Archmage of high magic for the Tempest. So sort of a weaker Alariel box here. Actually sort of embracing the no DLC meta. Meanwhile, over on the Vampire Count side, we are seeing Blood Knights, Varix Reavers for that regeneration, and generally a lot of mobility, but wait, perhaps not actually a lot of Graveguard Great Weapons and normal Graveguard. That's gonna be pretty scary for this box here. I think both players sort of calling each other out. Where Human Boy going for exactly what you would expect from a high elf build, and for the Vampire Counts, instead of hard countering a ranged build, they are still going for a box breaker, so should be good. Bubba's Big Blast saying you like the triple flyers. I think this is going to be pretty exciting. They will be able to dominate the air due to the Tempest, and that makes this Terrorgeist pretty useless here. It will have to play mostly an avoidance game, but if it does get hit by that Tempest, that would be absolutely devastating for Dr. Jellyfish. The Shadow Warriors getting a bit of poke damage on Kemmler too. Every little bit counts, and oh man, that next volley getting not that much damage. However, the Tempest looking pretty good. Gonna be hitting all of these Fellbats here, and the Terrorgeist too, slowing it down, but a little bit of a whiff actually. Many of the Fellbats not taking too much damage, but it doesn't really matter. We got 3 single entities here, and the Fellbats, they are falling out of the sky by the second. The 300 models rule is only in the Monster Mash Ice Power, only in the Ace Match. But there we go. The Terrorgeist taking a lot of damage. It's going to be going down without much in the way of escaping, and that means that the air will be dominated by the High Elves. Not before the Dragon Archmage of high magic takes a lot of damage, so that's going to be a little bit of a worry for the High Elves, especially with those Gazes of Nagash. It will be quite scary. Let me just type in the rule. By the way, 300 model or less is only in the Ace map. Sorry for that, but occasionally we will have to admin at the same time. But as the battle goes on, the Shadow Warriors take place in the safety of this defensive box, and with this dragon in the air, I think the breath attacks are going to be pretty scary for the Vampire Counts. Meanwhile, over here, we got the Varix Reavers getting poked away by those Shadow Warriors, not taking that much damage, but definitely pretty annoying. Scabscrath dropping 2 on the Silverin, but thing about Scabscrath, if you go over here, Scabscrath does magic damage, while the Silverin have that magic resist. They don't take nearly as much damage as you would expect. Dragon of Archmage of high magic positioning in the air too, looking like she might want to get a vicious breath attack here. That would be probably the most value, but no, actually opting for the Phoenix instead. Definitely still a very good play. Just absolutely deleting those zombies and sending in the Swordmasters of Hoeth to clean up the Graveguard. Some really nice counters here, and all of their damage will be going into that Graveguard, not wasted in the slightest against those zombies. White Kings moving on into taking quite a bit of damage, and it looks like they're going to be going down to this Noble plus Swordmasters. There's no support for them, and that's usually a bad time. And Kemmler too, getting a lot of damage on top of him. He throws down some heals, but he does have to evacuate, and that is a lot of lost winds of magic for the Vampire Counts. Meanwhile, Phoenix coming on in to dive in onto those White Kings. Ooh, and a big spell coming in on Kemmler too, bringing him down very near dead. We'll keep an eye on him. But over here, the single entity fight looks like it's going the way of the High Elves. These White Kings having an especially rough time here, as they are completely surrounded, and even though the Graveguard are here to help, the Swordmasters are buffering them out. Some nice hybrid use of infantry and single entities there. Princess 2 nearly gets caught, but oh my gosh, Kemmler actually disintegrating before he could heal himself. That's very unfortunate for the Vampire Counts, and it seems like despite their bans, they will be able or they will be losing this match anyways. It is still pretty contested, but the fact that Kemmler is gone is a huge loss for the forces of the Undead. Breath Attack dropping on Varric's Reavers too, taking out quite a few models. And over here in the distance, the Blood Knights crumbling away. They won't be getting any heals, and they are more or less off the battlefield. There is, I think, one more Breath Attack too from the Princess, and that's gonna be pretty brutal. Oh man, and pretty bad too. The Dire Pack reserves in the distance, getting absolutely left in the distance. They definitely could have helped shut down those archers, but it doesn't matter anymore as the ammunition is now fully spent on them. Did he even drop Krell? He didn't. Kemmler getting just completely shut down this game. The single entity squad moving on to these Graveguard, definitely a very strong choice. But, oh no, never mind. We do have Krell. We do have Krell. That's why he wasn't getting focused down. So at least with his last breath, he did manage to summon this guy. But as he is on foot, he's going to have a pretty hard time catching many of these units. The dogs do finally get engaged, though. Going to be diving in on this Mage of Life. She will be having a rather rough time. But actually, no, she actually does get saved by the Shadow Warriors. A Breath Attack drops on top of them too. Not the most value Breath Attack, but the High Elves definitely have a very strong advantage here. So perhaps just ending the game at this point. Good heal dropping too. And these single entities are taking no damage at all. The Phoenixes and the Noble, when clumped up, they make sure that they don't get surrounded, and they don't bounce around as much like Manticores. Yeah, Tomb Kings are undead. Tomb Kings are indeed undead. Is there even a debate on that? But anyways, there we go. It looks like the dogs have disintegrated, and it is just a couple units of knights left. Now Krell, he does manage to get in on the fight, and you can see how dangerous he is. He manages to get the Frost Heart Phoenix down to half HP. But that's not gonna be enough, unfortunately. Now, had it been a more fortunate situation for the Vampire Counts, he definitely could have torn some things up for sure. But in this match, they will be hitting army losses, which means we will be jumping into the second match. And it will all depend on whether or not Human Boy is able to pilot the Undead to victory. Perhaps their factions, or perhaps their unit bands, not going to be enough for the Undead this day, but we'll have to see. GG. Now for Human Boy, the question is, will he be going for the Vampire Counts? I think probably one of the more meta factions, definitely one of the most well-known factions, but I don't know which Undead Human Boy actually prefers. And there we go, he goes for Tomb Kings. Wonderful. So we are getting some diversity. That's going to be very nice. And we'll see what we get as a counter here. The Undead for the Vampire, or yeah, for Dr. Jellyfish. I think there are a few soft counters to the Tomb Kings. Of course, many factions with Burning Head do especially well against them, but they could be banned out. Funnily enough, the Empire against the Tomb Kings, if Human Boy wanted to, he could ban the Firecaster entirely, which means no magic, no Burning Heads coming from his opponent, but instead it's going to be the Dwarves, which is going to be pretty nice. Human Boy now considering his 2 units to ban. There's definitely a lot of good options, and I think Slayers are going to be pretty good. Funds apparently on Ultra. was that last game on Ultra funds? I did not even notice. I didn't even notice, but apparently the players didn't either. So I guess we just move on. Usually the way I go about these sort of mismatch settings on the game, usually I just say, the match that was played that that's the one that you stick with, as it is both players' responsibility to have the correct settings. And there we go. He's going to ban Thoric, Slayers, and Cannons. Now, a very important question. Do the Slayers count as variants? I believe they do. But let's go ahead and double check in the fruit rules. If we go ahead and scroll on down. Where are the Slayers? Dwarves. Yes, if we go to the Dwarves, the Giant Slayers are not variants. Remember? Giant Slayers are not variants. Did I spell that right? I feel like there's an E in there. No, I did it right. Wow, look at that. All right. So just letting the players know. Which should be interesting. Now, normal Slayers are usually the most efficient option against the Undead. But the fact that the Giant Slayers are also gone is going to be a pretty... It's going to be a pretty nice win for Dr. Jellyfish here. Potentially could do some things there, but Giant Slayers in this matchup in particular are slightly less good. The reason being that they take way more damage from range shots, which is gonna hurt a lot. And Kelligar Iron Fist saying, was just going to ask dwarves where. Gone is the Lord options with Thorek. Yes, yeah, especially since Grombrindle got beaten into the ground. It's gonna be a little bit scarier for the dwarves, but I don't think they have terrible options by any means, with Belagar actually being rather strong here. Yeah, generic Rune Lord is pretty good too. He doesn't have the oomph that Thorek has, specifically that very high damage, and he loses a little bit of the utility, but overall I think he's still a very strong choice indeed. And this is pretty fun too. With this tournament, you're going to be seeing quite a few matchups that you don't usually see between against the Undead, and they will have a much stronger chance than usual too. So should be quite exciting. Also, another thing, I think it was originally planned to have it where the living faction picks first and then Undead counterpick, but I forgot to switch. The rules. So sorry to Bunny Arquette. Is that the name? Whoopsie daisies. No one saw that. Was it Bunny something Arquette? Yeah, Bunny Arquette. Sorry for getting that wrong if I did. But nevertheless, it should still work out. All right, now for Human Boy. What are we thinking about the Tomb Kings matchup here? Of course, Gyrocopter spam, definitely a little bit scary. The Tomb Kings, usually they're dealing with a box from the dwarves, so you might want to take a lot of Ushapti, but alternatively cannons can also be pretty scary, so we've seen some Tomb Kings actually rush here. I'm not sure what Human Boy has in mind, even though I can't see his build directly in front of me. Yeah, the Rune Lord, it's not optimal, but as we saw last game, you don't need optimal to do well here. Apparently the lobby's lagging. Not for me. It shouldn't be too much of a problem. Just doing a quick check to make sure that there's no issues on the Discord, and there aren't, so wonderful. Now, for people coming on in, since we're in the downtime right now, I must ask, how do you guys feel about the new Winds of Magic changes for Warhammer? CA recently published a thing for that. Hey, Adobe, happy to have you in chat. AP is a must for sure. But yeah, the Winds of Magic changes, I think they are absolutely amazing. Having sort of like a mechanic that's sort of just sitting in the back line, not doing very much. You know, when you're playing campaign, it's always very random. But having changed it to have way more of an impact, and actually something that you can control strategically, That is very, very exciting. What are the changes for people who don't know? So the way that they changed it for Warhammer 3 is that in campaign, well, first of all, Winds of Magic is a constant right now, and your Winds of Magic reserve is something that you build up by being in regions with high Winds of Magic, and it lowers when you're in regions with low magic, but it's a lower over time effect. So for each turn you spend in a bad region, it will go lower and lower for your army, which I think is really exciting. It makes it more than it makes it more than just a random thing, because before you just sort of entered a region where you needed to fight, and then you would go ahead and do the fight. But now there's a lot more to manage and to sort of play it to your advantage. Not a fan of waiting around for Winds of Magic to recharge on the map. That is true. That is true. That is but it does become more of a it becomes more of a choice there instead of something random. You just hope it won't make Khorne weak and uninteresting. Well, for Khorne, he gets what? He gets higher magic resist. The more Winds of Magic there is. I feel like Khorne in general, though, doesn't have a ton going on for him. You play Khorne if you just want to fight a ton of battles, really. I wonder how his campaign will play out, because it is going to be a lot of fighting, and if there's still the problem where you have to play a lot of battles that are really one-sided, it could get pretty monotonous, but we shall see. For me, I'm more interested in the multiplayer personally, of course, but overall, I think it's interesting. It's at least more interesting than the random Winds of Magic we get in different zones currently. And Tzeentch too. The fact that he uses Winds of Magic as a resource, that is interesting. And I would really like to see how we're able to exploit that when we get into Warhammer 3. And especially Legend of Total War. He will definitely exploit that one way or another. Are you ever really going to choose to wait around though? An extra 10 or 20 wins isn't going to change a battle. That is true. That is true. I think one thing is that the Winds of Magic overall aren't too impactful in battles, just because, you're not spending all of it extremely quickly, and you only need a couple spells to really get the most value. So there's a chance that it doesn't work out. I think it's more interesting for sure. Is it interesting enough? I guess we'll have to see, but it's definitely a step in the right direction. And one really fun thing, the modders are going to go to town with that system, right? I feel like anyone who mods the game, that's going to be just amazing for them. But we'll have to discuss more at another time. For Son of the Mountain, a dwarf clan, Dr. Jellyfish, has brought 4 bolt throwers. Now, that is an interesting choice. Presumably very strong against Ushabti. Tons of miners who will be able to blast away the skeletons, and a bunch of Longbeard great weapons with a powerful Thunderer and Ulthar's Raiders backline. Now, these guys, the thing that makes them great is going to be the Marked by Ulthar ability, which is amazing versus the Tomb Kings. They have tons of shielded units, lots of armor and missile resist, and it just turns any target into a really nice one. The Rune Lord too, coming in with the AoEs, actually very well kitted out, as he has immune psychology, missile resist, and tons of buffs for the infantry. Gonna be a pretty scary dwarf army. But for the Tomb Kings, what do we see? We see actually a little bit of a worrying army for the Tomb Kings. We have the Casket of Souls. This one is probably their biggest chance of success here, as it does outrange these bolt throwers. You can see here it is outside the range, and the Casket of Souls should be able to hit quite a few of these units. It's a bit hard to see with all of here we go, yeah. And the bolt throwers are in range, so it can hit most of the dwarf army from where it is. But the Hyrule Titan is not in a great position right now. The reason is because it can't really get close to do anything when there are 4 bolt throwers on the field. Human Boy's gonna have to figure out a way to deal with those before he gets any closer. The Necrotechs will be able to help though, and the Chariots, definitely a really nice pick. One, you don't have to worry about Slayers. So should be at least contested, I feel. We see Ice Power already calling the game now, putting in the vote that the Undead are going to have a pretty rough time. Honestly, I think the build is a bit strange, but perhaps the Casket of Souls will hard carry here. And look at that, the Undead, they even have the Balance of Power. So surely there's no way that this could possibly go wrong. You'd like to see a lot more of the tabletop opposed magic. Oh yeah, opposed magic on tabletop was really fun. But anyways, the game, the bolt thrower is firing away at the start. Classic dodging here. We got Arkin the Black actually scooting around on his chariot. He does take a bit of damage though, and he cannot get healed up, which is going to be a little bit scary here. Tomb King's actually choosing to advance so that the dwarves do not push them back to the edge of the map. But if Arkin the Black here takes too much damage, that could be pretty scary for him. The Ushopti are doing some dodging micro here too, which will be helping them out, pulling forwards when the bolt throwers shoot. That's going to be making them pretty hard to hit actually, as long as the micro stays on top of them. Bolt throwers do get another volley in, and it seems like one of the Ushopti is going to go down. Yep, there we go. He tips on over and he's going to be out, but the dwarves have taken a lot of damage so far. The Thunderers trying to push up to get some damage, but if you see here, the Longbeard's already taking a beating. Casket of Souls getting some pretty nice value, and now it's the dwarves who are feeling a little bit outgunned, having to scoot a little bit forwards, but as they get closer with their infantry, their ranged firepower is going to get a lot scarier. Thunderers firing away at the skeleton chariots, gonna be pretty rough for those guys, but they turn to fire at Arkin the Black, but the chariots manage to save them, slamming into the Thunderers to keep them from eating a nasty volley there, getting slowed by the Runesmith. Over here too, or Rune Lord, my bad. He is no smith. Chosen of the Gods too, getting absolutely mulched by those bolt thrower crews. That's gonna be quite nice indeed. And for the Tomb Kings, it seems like things are starting to get pretty rough here. Over on the flank, we have the skeleton chariots. They might want to try and scoot in, but there's a lot of mass here for the dwarves. And a nice, what is this? Not Fate of Buna. It's Purple Sun. Yes, Purple Sun dropping on the Thunderers. Going to be getting them very close to routing. I wouldn't be surprised if they do start fleeing. And there we go. They are gone. The Tomb Kings are beginning to breach the front lines. What is definitely scary for them, though, is that their infantry is not very elite. Over here, it's just skeleton warriors and spearmen. And really, the only pocket of strength they have are the single entities on this left flank. Now, that's definitely a very scary pocket, but I don't know if that will be enough. The Tomb Kings overall, they're gonna have their work cut out for them. The chariots will be able to do well, and it's going to be their job to take out all of the range units. And in the end, it will come down to whether or not the Longbeards can take out the single entities. For Thoric, I think, or not Thoric, the Rune Lord, he's going to be not too hard to take down. His combat stats are not amazing, so the Hyrule Titan will be able to do well. But there are a lot of dwarf infantry units left right now. The chariots too going down, which is going to be really bad for the dwarves, but another Purple Sun dropping on these Longbeards, going to be getting some really nice damage. You can see directed this way, actually turning right into another unit of Longbeards. That is a huge Purple Sun, but will it be enough? Casket of Souls lands too, and that might be able to even rout off the Longbeards. It does. That's going to be quite nice, but the chariots are gone, which means that the Tomb King's mobility gonna be having a rough time indeed. A spell so rare, I forgot its name. Indeed. But in this matchup, it is actually pretty common. It's just, this matchup is not one that you see very often. Casket of Souls still getting a lot of damage though. Arkin the Black getting in a Fate of Buna? No, just a Spirit Leech on these Longbeards. Not the most cost-efficient ability there, but perhaps he doesn't have a lot of Winds of Magic left. But a tiny lapse in Micro gets absolutely punished by the Bolt Throwers. Arkin the Black brought down to 1/5 HP. He's gonna be running for his life now, and Human Boy microing him a lot to make sure he stays alive. Over here, Dwarf Thunderers trying their best to shut down the Dwarf Thunderers trying to well, actually not really doing anything. They were just getting a few shots in, I think, at some crumbling Ushapti, and they're going to be a bit of a threat here. This Hero Titan definitely needs to have no range units firing in on it, as it is such a large unit. Any amount of ranged firepower will take it down, and you can see for the dwarves, they have about 5 units of ranged that will probably be able to mulch that in seconds. Ark in the Black too getting really low on HP now, and Zero putting out all of our thoughts. The undead, indeed, they are getting boned. Now, we do have a pretty nice blob here. Potentially, the Casket of Souls will be able to just annihilate everything here. Of course, the Thunderers are a higher threat. So they do get targeted, retargeting onto the infantry, showing that that my predictions are always going to be wrong. But honestly, it seems like there's not much that the Tomb Kings can do. Our Hero Titan getting focused down, using the rest of its Winds of Magic. And meanwhile, the Necrotechs trying to flee to a safer position, trying to look for those range units to actually dive in on top of, but they don't have the best combat stats in the world, and despite their work to try and patch up the damage on the Hero Titan, it's not going to be enough, and the Tomb Kings meet their doom. Strangely enough, in an undead themed tournament, we've had 2 losses for the undead so far. Not the greatest situation for them, honestly. It seems like these counters still going pretty badly for them. But it does mean we will get to see the ace match. Now, this is a match that is highly anticipated by me and AC Maiden too, along with, I think, probably a few other players. Wow, that is really low damage on everything. Oh my gosh, that bolt thrower. 10 kills. But man, did they make those 10 kills worth it. Oh my gosh, those bolt throwers. Amazing value on those guys. And let's see, the blasting charges doing pretty well too. So overall, pretty nice dwarf build. But for the ace match, it's going to be pretty fun. It's a monster mash. Okay, monster mash. Submit. What's it? VM your factions to me. All right. So this should be pretty fun. Players are going to be DMing me their factions. And then from there, they'll be following the special rules that we have for the ace match. That's going to be blind picks. Armies must contain 4 single entity monsters. Monstrous infantry and other units count as half. They have to bring fewer than 300 units, maximum 2 range units. And let's see, Dark Elf for human. And it's going to be Lizardman for jelly. Yeah, so a maximum of 2 range units. And yeah, that's a rule set. You just gotta go really small monster-based armies. So should be quite fun. Both players select their faction, and I am really excited to see how this goes, because the meta in this ace match is completely different from anything we've ever seen ever. Oh, LoremasterOfSotek, hey, perfect timing. For those of you that did not catch the earlier side of the stream, reminder that we are partnering up with LoremasterOfSotek to do some nice cross-promotion on content that we like. He's also a wonderful patron, and if you want to see his Lorebeard's podcast, I think it's just LoremasterOfSotek's Lorebeard's podcast, you can find all the related links down in the description. So do check those out, as he is generously supporting this tournament a lot, and the many tournaments that we do host. But yeah, I hope everything's going well for you. This tournament in particular is very fun, Sotek. This monster mash too in the ace match is absolutely crazy. It's gonna be a single entity fest for sure. Yeah. Oh, let's see. Do heroes count? Single entity limits removed. Okay, yeah, I guess that sort of counts. Yes. All right, so let's do a quick clarification, by the way. By single entity limits removed. Let's see. Wait, yeah. By the way, single entity limits removed. By the way, hero limits still exist. Such is the way of a monster mash. There we go. But hero limits are in. Okay, there we go. Clarifications for all the players. And we can get back to enjoying what's going on here, which is a Dark Elf versus Lizardmen match, where they both have some pretty good single entities here. I think their supporting units are very interesting too, although quite different. The Lizardmen, also it's getting really hot here, but the Lizardmen, they do have the Skink Skirmishers, which are going to be very scary, as kiting units could possibly be very strong here. I don't know how strong, since you can only bring 2 of them, but we might see that from the Lizardmen side. As for the Dark Elves, I think, well, I'm not sure. They do have a lot of really scary monsters that you just don't see very often. Specifically, there are many Hydras that often just get shot down. They're really slow and lumbering, but in this format, they will actually be able to find the fights that they're looking for. So I personally feel like Dark Elves have a pretty nice chance here, where Lizardmen monsters can sometimes be very, they can be very infantry focused. So we'll see how this goes. Oh, I said it again. I say that like 5 times every stream, but overall, I think, ooh, I am not sure. I'm not sure at all who does well here. The Lizardmen have some really scary single entities, but like if you think about the Carnosaur and so on, Lizardmen single entities are really, they're really sort of focused towards a different type of play style, where, sorry, I'm just trying to, there we go. LoremasterOfSotek, you're a moderator now. Congratulations. But yeah, which, you know, anytime you show up, feel free to show off your links and so on. But for the Lizardmen, their single entities specialize in mobility, not really standing their ground and fighting. For the Dark Elves, the Hydras are specifically built to kill other single entities and to stand their ground. So I'm really interested to see how they do. As we get into the game, we see for the Dark Elves, coming in with the slightly larger build, we got Rampaging Witch Elves to shut down, to pin down those Lizardmen monsters. Blackguard of Nagarond to stop these guys from getting surrounded. And a Death Hag. Death Hag with tons of buffs. We got a Bloodrack Shrine with, I don't even know what these abilities are. We got Aura of Agony. Oh my gosh. Okay, so we have some really massive combat buffs over there. Also Marathi coming in with Soul Stealer. It seems like it's a heavily designed build on AoE stacking and specifically buff stacking, which is going to be working out quite nice. The leadership debuffs may rout the Lizardmen monstrous core, which is pretty scary. Hydras are anti-infantry. Chill of Sontar is just anti-everything. No specific thing, but the Death Hag is anti-infantry. Meanwhile, for the Lizardmen forces, we see a smaller army due to having so little infantry, but it's going to be a Mazda Mundi pick, 2 Bastiladons, a Feral Stegodon, and some cavalry. So the Lizardmen win on the mobility front. Mazda Mundi coming in with the net 2 to catch any targets. And the 2 Stegodons, I think overall they're going to be doing a lot less damage, this Lizardmen army. I think the cavalry might be a little bit scary, but their main damage is actually going to be the Salamander hunting packs, going for a much more mobile build relying on their ranged to poke away at the Dark Elf forces. Now, very important, the Salamander hunting packs have monstrous in the title card, which means that they do count as part of the single entity minimum cap that we're looking for. And oh my gosh, right off the bat, the Death Hag eating a volley, taking quite a bit of damage. Now the Dark Elves can advance, and they will be doing so, but they'll probably start getting slowed down by the Lizardmen infantry. But instead, actually, the Salamanders look like they're going to be going to kite, and with only one range unit, it's going to be a little bit sketchy for the Dark Elves, and net dropping too, and I think the Lizardmen kite here is going to be quite nasty indeed. Alright, and there we go, Ruination of Cities. Absolutely missing all of the infantry by a hair's breadth, just barely missing them. Another volley coming on in, brutalizing that Charybdis. And the forces continue to move forwards. The Bloodwrack Shrine going to be firing a shot at Mazdamundi, not getting too much, but now focusing down the Salamanders. And the Lizardmen might run into a bit of an issue here, because interestingly enough, the Salamanders haven't been getting that much damage so far. And if they keep taking these AoEs and shots at them, if they run out of ammunition, I think the Dark Elves can actually win it here. Especially with the Blackguard of Naggarond, it could be quite scary. Doombolt dropping too, hitting the the Temple Guard. That's going to be really nice. And the Dark Elves are pushing their advantage, specifically their single entity fight. Although the Dark Elves, or the Witch Elves, do go down, overall it seems like the Dark Elves do manage to find their fight. Blackguard going to be a huge support here too, but will they be able to catch the cavalry? It seems like not really, overextending a tiny bit to catch the Salamanders, and the cavalry does dive on it. Meanwhile, over here on the left flank, the Charybdis taking a ton of damage, and it will be routing off the battlefield, likely finished off by the Salamanders. And over here, it looks like Mazdamundi is still holding quite well. The cavalry is taking a lot of damage though, and the Blackguard are going to be rather scary, but a nice banishment will be dropping on top of them. However, will it be turning in towards the rest of the army? It looks like yes it will. A little bit of a misdirected banishment, actually annihilating tons of the Lizardmen forces. I think that actually switched the tide of battle towards the Dark Elves here. The Salamanders too are at half of their ammunition now, which is really bad for them. And some Dark Riders I didn't catch actually rout off one of the Salamander hunting packs. A huge Soul Stealer gonna be dropping down too. And I think the Dark Elves, they might have actually weathered the storm despite all odds. The Salamanders just not getting in that much damage, but it really depends on how the single entity fight here plays out. Morathi desperately trying to get those Soul Stealers down to hit the army, and she does, and that's going to be helping her out a lot. Sorry, just doing some moderation stuff, but yeah, that's going to be healing her up, and that's going to be getting in a lot of damage here, specifically to those Star Chamber Guardians, but one of the Bloodwrack Shrines does get routed off. There is another one though that will be here, and some Witch Elves manage to dive in too. Potentially, if they manage to rampage Mazdamundi, that means he won't be able to cast spells. Not only that, but the Star Chamber Guardian get Terror routed off, and we might see a mass rout for the Lizardmen here. Bloodwrack Shrine potentially could come back too. Same with the Dark Riders, but they are pretty beat up. There are still quite a few Salamanders left on the battlefield, but their ammunition is extremely low. And Mazdamundi getting rampaged is just the worst feeling ever for the Lizardmen, as he's just getting ripped apart by the Chill of Sontar. Ooh, and the animations too, dodging those missiles, gonna be doing quite a bit. A massive 76 melee attack also gonna be a huge help. Another Soul Stealer gonna be dropping, and that will likely rout off this Revivification Crystal. The Stegodon here, a Feral Stegodon, may even get routed also, but it seems like its leadership does stabilize, and that's going to be helping out quite a bit. All right, let's see, Lizardmen for Bowmore. Sorry, I'm more DMing, and High Elf for Ice. Okay, there we go. So moderation is done. Meanwhile, the battle has gone on, and you can see that overall the lizardmen are actually getting taken out the battlefield. Mazdamundi getting routed off despite the massive amount of heals dropping on top of him, but just the pure damage that he's taken is going to be having him run for the hills. Meanwhile, over here, the other Revivification Crystal getting torn apart. It does not have the combat stats it needs, and with only 12 melee attack, I don't know if it's even done any damage. We'll have to see post-battle. Mazdamundi quickly comes back though, as the heals do kick in. It does help him out quite a bit. Over here, Bloodrack Shrine getting chased away by melee Umbral Tide. But I don't think the Lizardmen I don't think they have the ammunition to win it out. Against all odds, it seems like the Dark Elves just managed to weather the storm, with the Blackguard of Nagaron just sitting right on top of all of these units and getting insane damage the whole game. Not to mention that huge banishment routing off everything. But the game is not over yet. Mazdamundi has a lot of healing, and the Bloodrack Shrine does get chased off. So potentially, if the Chill of Sontar actually gets taken out here, Mazdamundi could cycle charge Marathi down. He will need some other units to actually help with that, but overall, it's going to be dicey for sure. Mazdamundi dives in. He's going to be slamming into the Chill of Sontar, trying to land some hits, but if you take a look at his melee attack, it's 16. And even with his charge, he is not hitting that Chill of Sontar very much. Meanwhile, he's taking a lot of damage back. And I think he's going to go down. Salamanders getting some friendly fire on their own units too. And Mazdamundi for the second time looks like he will be running for the hills. Meanwhile, the Skink Javelins on this crystal over here getting in a tiny bit of damage on Mazdamundi, that is. And the Chill of Sontar holds. Against all odds, it's very good leadership. Keeps it in the battle. And the Lizardmen get routed off. Ice power. Seems like you may have guessed wrong this time, as the Dark Elf Monster Mash does actually win it. Coming out with 2 wins, Human Boy will be moving on to the next round. Yeah, the Salamanders, they did a lot of friendly fire. If you look at their damage, they did get pretty good damage. But what actually worked out for the Dark Elves, these single entities, although they were in the fight for a while, their melee attack was just so low for the whole battle. The cavalry too getting annihilated by Mazdamundi, definitely very rough. And for the Dark Elves, wow, this Hydra didn't do anything, but the Chill of Sontar getting 7,000 or 2,400 damage. Quite nice for that. And even the single unit of Dark Riders, I think, was a really nice pick for the Dark Elves here. Marathi too, with those monstrous Soul Stealers, really doing quite well. And overall, I think a really nice build by Human Boy. GG. All right, we got some discussion in chat. Talking about 360 units. You can kite with salamanders, by the way. Salamanders. There we go. Did I spell that right? I feel like I might have missed an N. Whatever. So that's going to be that match. Human Boy going to be moving on up through the tournament bracket, which means we can go ahead and see how this is progressing. So it seems like Human Boy gonna be moving on up to face up against AC Maiden, who defeated Bears in the tournament, which brings us down to the final 3 best of 3s. As soon as Ice Power is done his match against Bowmore, we will be facing the victor to see who manages to make it to the finals. Okay, go for it. Alright, Ice Power on a bit of a timer is going to be going ahead and duking it out against AC Maiden. So instead we'll just wait for Ice Power's match to finish. So let's see. Here we go, Ice Power and Bowmore. Do they have a spectator slot up? I'm not sure. But perhaps I can just join instead. Rip Fish Hydra. Yeah, that was pretty rough. Some of the single entities did well, others sadly did not. you just got here. What's the verdict about undeads being OP? Well, in this case, we are seeing how well undead does if they can ban units instead of factions. So that means that undead will be playing much worse matchups. And for the data that we've collected so far, apparently undead are just terrible. They've lost both of the rounds that they've showed up in, despite being able to ban units. So perhaps we didn't make it favored enough for them, but it really depends on how these next games go, I think. Here we go. You can go ahead and spectate Ice Power and Bowmore. Let's go ahead and see. Did they play the ace match? Hey. Have you played the ace? If not, we'll be able to watch it. It should be quite nice. Yeah. Those poor salamanders, man. Ice Power saying, guess I stand corrected. But I expected them to get kited at least a little bit. Yeah, I think the kiting phase was a little bit shorter than we would have expected, but overall, those salamanders weren't getting a lot of damage. Nice. Okay, so we will be spectating the match between Ice Power and Bowmore. Now, it seems like for the two factions, we have the High Elves and the Lizardmen. High Elves, of course, a classic faction, well known for their single entity blob fights. They will be quite scary against any faction, really. But the Lizardmen, the OG monster faction, they can bring monsters competitively in almost all matchups. But the question, do they really do well in a monster mash? Is a very important question to ask. And overall, my theory is that no, not really. I don't think Lizardmen do that well in a big monster fight, because they're anti-monstrous, use their mobility to their advantage, and so on and so on. We've gone over it before. So the only thing left is to see if Bowmore is going to prove us wrong. This is the ace match between both players, Bowmore. And overall, I would say Ice Power is probably the favorite to win. He just because he is one of the top players on the Ent ladder right now, and overall he's won most of the tournaments. Let's be real here. I think he's won about half of the tournaments that I've ever hosted, maybe more. So he's a top tier player for sure. But this format tests a very different skill set than other formats. So we'll see if the creativity comes out on top for Bowmore instead. We need a quad Troglodon build. That would be disgusting, Zero. The normal unit limits do still exist, so you have to take different single entities. But I think a double Troglodon build for sure would be really scary. Let's see. Nope. Human has to go soon. So that's fine. There we go. And for those of you who are currently wondering, the bottom bracket, since we like to be as new player friendly, or not new player, as player friendly as we can be here, the bottom bracket will be progressing without us, so that our players don't have to drop out early. Yes, human boy, you can fight. Let them fight. No problem, man, no problem. Honestly, we host so many tournaments, it's always nice to have a shorter one too. So, you know, I don't have the endurance like you hosting like 7-hour tournaments, man. You absolute mad lad. By the way, guys, Human Boy hosts tournaments if you're looking for more Warhammer content. He is someone to go check out for sure. But enough of Human Boy. What army do we have for the Lizardmen? We got 2 Croxagore units. Quite good for mass. We have a single Razordon hunting pack. Interesting choice. These guys have a little bit more armor piercing instead of the salamanders, so they'll be getting in some nice damage. Some 2 units of infantry. It seems like everyone loves taking that single unit of anti-large. Seems like a pretty good idea. I hate that name. Revivification Crystal to heal up these guys, because otherwise there's not a lot of other healing. except for the Skink Oracle, Nakai for his massive debuffs, and a Feral Carnosaur. So pretty nice Lizardman army. Meanwhile, over on the flank, Bowmore, shocked by his opponent's just disgustingly small army count of 12. It's gonna be Ice Power coming in with the High Elf Death Blob. What do we got? We got Alariel the Radiant, a Noble, 2 Lion Chariots. We have a Handmaiden of the Ever Queen, and we got a nasty flying squad here. Flamespire Phoenix, we got the Frostheart Phoenix, and a Star Dragon. The biggest dragon of all dragons will be insane in combat. It's gonna have just, you know, effectively 2,000, or not 2,000, closer to 1,500, closer to like 1,000 HP with healing from Alariel. It's gonna be quite nice here in the big fight. One big question too is whether or not the chariots will be able to kill the infantry, and overall I think the chariots will have a bit of a hard time. The Croxagores will be able to help quite a bit, and it's just gonna come down to how well the Star Dragon can rip some faces off. Small indeed, small. I don't know, I don't think I've ever read that out loud before, so I might be saying it wrong. But yeah, what a High Elf army indeed. This is like peak Warhammer right here. And funnily enough, also legal in Quick Battle, I believe. Right? Can someone confirm? This is Quick Battle legal, I think, which is disgusting. CA, we need that 300 unit limit if you haven't implemented it yet. But we got the princess moving on up. She's going to be doing some early harass. It's going to be helping her out quite a bit. But the forces are going to be advancing towards each other soon enough. And we'll see how much damage actually gets done. Troglodyte going to be moving on up. Might get some spitting attacks on the Handmaiden. Could do some pretty nice damage. First shot comes on in, but it's not homing. Gets dodged. And overall, not too much damage on either side here. Handmaiden going to be dancing around. For the white lion chariots, they're going to be probably looking for some targets to dive in on. But overall, both forces not really getting too much damage in. Good luck, have fun on both sides getting sent forward. The Handmaiden picks off a Razordon hunting pack. Overall, very slow start to the game. The Troglodyte, it looks like it will be trying to get some damage in, possibly on these chariots. Nope, turns around, decides it doesn't want to pick a fight just yet. The battle will continue. Remember, wait, did my rules say that that you have to obey attacking rules for your single entities? I'm not sure, but we'll see if the players actually end up disputing, since usually you don't need to make rule calls mid-game. So we'll continue and watch the battle as the breath attack drops on the Legion of Chaqua, getting in a little bit of damage. More damage on the Razordon hunting pack though, which should be nice. But the single entities do get engaged. Now, the chariots really want to be hitting the infantry here, but the surround on the Croxagores is going to be helping out quite a bit. Meanwhile, Razordons picking apart that Frostheart Phoenix, actually taking a lot of damage here as the Bastiladon dives in too. It looks like it's getting pinned pretty hard. Good heal over here to pick up the chariots though, and we'll see how this fight actually turns out. The main target that the Lizardmen are looking to pick off, it's gonna be Alariel, and we do see Nakai diving right in on top of her. Routing off the chariots would be a nice +2, but they can be pretty hard to take out. However, if they do go down, that will be the majority of the mass gone for the High Elves. The leadership still stays really high though, and overall I think the High Elves are going to be in a pretty nice position. Meanwhile over here, Cohort of Sotek pulling back, gonna be getting a little bit of damage in. Trying to get some surrounds, but overall pretty low impact. And although one of the chariots is wavering, one of the Croxagores does manage to get routed off. This is pretty bad for the Lizardmen, as it means there's going to be a lot less mass, and even if the chariots do rout, they'll probably be able to rally as their mass can push them through into the safety of the outside. Alariel, though, in a bit of a precarious position, pinned down by a Carnosaur and Nakai. Not the best place you want to be in, but a nasty breath attack going to be dropping in on that Carnosaur, bringing it down to half HP, and that's going to be really nice for the High Elves. Carnosaur taking massive damage here now. Ice Power going in for the kill. It looks like it gets a cold-blooded buff that's going to be buffing its leadership a little bit, and it seems like it will just barely hold on. Meanwhile, Nakai taking out one of the chariots, and the lizardmen coming back in the battle. It seems like the lizardmen actually, having taken out the chariots, surprisingly enough, right as they routed, that's going to be really nice for pinning down the single entities now, as the Croxagores will be able to do quite well. And overall, Alarielle, although she does manage to escape, I don't know if the lizardmen are going to be able to, well, I don't know if the High Elves are going to be able to win against this blob. Against spears with infantry support, it's really hard to get your single entities hitting the targets that you actually want them to. So it's going to be pretty scary. High Elves disengaging to potentially chase off the Razordon hunting pack. That's going to buy them a little bit of time. But the Skink Oracle still going to be a bit of a ranged threat here. Could possibly poke away the Star Dragon. It does get charged by the Flamespire Phoenix, but overall it's gonna be pretty scary for sure. As the High Elves don't have a lot of ways to really engage into all of this infantry. Ogres, oh man, ogres would be something in this tournament, but we didn't want to see ogres all the time, so we decided to make them not allowed here. The dragon does dive on in too. Gonna land a single hit on the Skink Oracle, and it will be getting bogged down a little bit by the infantry. However, some decent mass actually does manage to charge in on the Feral Carnosaur. Might get some pretty nice damage, but instead decides to pull away. Skink Oracle goes in for a fireball. Could do some pretty nice damage. The dragon doesn't take off, but I think, actually no, Star Dragon does not have fire resist. Doesn't matter though, as the Flamespire Phoenix gets torn apart, it will be running for the hills and potentially routed off too. If it does get chased down by the Carnosaur, it won't be able to use its healing, and that's going to be really bad for the High Elves here. Alarielle too, not the best combat fighter in the world. Going to be staying along in the sidelines, but the Phoenix does come back. However, the Skink Oracle constantly poking away at the Star Dragon. That's going to be rather scary, and a breath attack does drop, gets in a lot of damage on the Skink Oracle, but doesn't get it anywhere near routing. And the constant damage on the Star Dragon could actually get it routed off, and without a Star of Averlorn, it's going to be quite scary. Carnosaur gets dived in on. It will be taking a lot of damage, but Nakai could go in for a big kill here. Swings, misses the Star Dragon. A hit potentially could have killed it, but maybe it doesn't matter, as it routes off anyways despite the Star of Averlorn. Carnosaur manages to hold on in the battle, getting a big buff from the primal roar of Nakai, doing really nice for keeping it in the fight. And despite the Star of Averlorn, the Star Dragon will be running for the hills, potentially going down too. The Troglodon, Skink Oracle, might be able to shoot at it, but instead it gets disrupted by the Phoenix. Nice play. But I don't think, even if this dragon does escape, I don't think it's going to be enough for ice power. Bowmore with a really nice Lizardman build here, doing quite well. The anti-large on that Carnosaur, just doing miles for it, as it's constantly getting healed too. It actually really gets really close to its heal cap, and against all odds, the Lizardmen seem to be pulling out the victory in this match. High Elves taking army losses now. Alarielle goes for a final charge to take down this darned Carnosaur that has been such a problem for the entire battle. But she gets routed off, and that's going to be it for the High Elves. Really surprising result, honestly. I did not expect the Lizardmen to do so well there in the big monster mash. Usually the High Elf healing is just devastating, but I think with a little bit of luck too, that Carnosaur really managed to do good. If you take a look at its value, 4,000 value on the Carnosaur, definitely quite strong. And the Croxagores too, managing to be to work as some mass and pinning down the High Elves. I think they were a really nice choice for Bowmore. As for the Star Dragon, doing a lot of damage with those breath attacks, but unfortunately getting taken out at the end of the game, and the surprisingly weak showing of the chariots this time around. But pretty good. I'm really enjoying the builds that we've seen so far. Which means now we will be moving on to our match against Bowmore. So let's go ahead and change the score and dive right on in. Always love seeing Lizardmen slapping around some pointy ears. Oh man, it's really nice, especially since Bowmore was the underdog in this situation. All right. Dragons are the favorite snack of Carnosaurs anyways. You know, if only it was a Dreadsaurian, it would be the perfect setup. But ice power is out, which means we can now dive on in. But I think his leaving managed to crash the game. So instead, I'll go ahead and just change the score as well. The game finishes crashing. Let's see, Enticity. I know how to spell my own name. Up against Bowmore. Coming on in with the 0. Now we will have to do a quick reboot. Don't mind me. Just restarting Warhammer real quick. But what's going on in chat? This is the perfect time to ask questions. So go ahead and send them my way. No problem. That's why Alariel screams Nakai every time she casts. Yes! Yes, we... Oh my gosh, that's wonderful, isn't it? Alright, there we go. Game should be up. And we are in. Let's see. Strangely enough, I feel like we weren't getting any of the sounds. Okay, no. Looks like my settings are right. So let's go ahead and see if we can find Bowmore. Now... he will be hosting a lobby, which means that we will likely be on the right side of the bracket. Which means I need to shuffle around the names. There we go, that's done. And where is Bowmore? There he is! Let's go ahead and dive on right in. And see if we can win 2-0 or lose 2-0 so that we don't have to ask an admin to do the ace match. Although the ace match is really fun. Maybe I will... I hope that I'll be able to get to it, but for now, we will be tryharding as always. Hey, and the map is going to be Iron Sand Desert. Now, we are on the top bracket, which means I will be picking the Undead. And as you know, my favorite Undead faction, Vampire Coast. Bowmore saying he thinks this is the first time we've played. Is that real? Have we never played before? That's pretty interesting. Oh, maybe it is. Maybe it is. But here we go. Now, we're gonna see what faction he decides to counterpick with here. As Vampire Coast, probably the thing that I'm scared of the most, likely the Wood Elves. Wood Elves are absolutely terrifying as of their DLC. But he goes for Skaven. Overall, I would say not. That's a little bit of a... I could play this matchup without banning anything, to be honest. But apparently he has some shenanigans. So let's go ahead and see what units we want to ban. So here's the list of Skaven units. I think for the Lord choice, Snicketch is probably one of the more meta Lord choices. But I don't think that matters a whole ton. Yeah, Skaven's a really strange choice. I think I might ban Plague Priests, like the hero version, so that he has to take a Lord. I don't know. Honestly, the Lord choices, well, we'll take a look at that later. But for the actual units here, I'm wondering. I feel like Rat Ogres, maybe. Oh, the Wolf Rats. Now that's a good choice to ban, as Wolf Rats can be extremely annoying when you're trying to run things over with your dogs. So, you know, maybe Rats, the Plague Priest, and then Clan Rats. Because if I ban Clan Rats, I effectively get rid of, you know, 4 different units. That's gonna be I think that's a really nice one. So, let's go ahead and try that out. So, ban, Plague Priest, Hero. Wolf Rats. Clan Rats. All right. So this is a pretty nice setup. I think overall this is a really nice advantage for the Vampire Coast, as I feel like this matchup is pretty even most of the time. Okay, ready. I feel like this matchup is pretty even most of the time, but oh, okay. So apparently I ruined his plan by banning the wolf rats. So that's a small win for us. But yeah, this matchup is pretty good. It's pretty good, especially as one that I've practiced quite a bit. I feel like we have a pretty nice chance here. Is it fair to ban clan rats and have that include the different variations? Well, in this tournament, to give the undead even more of an advantage, we decided to make it where variations count, just to see how bad it could get. Because, you know, a lot of the times undead do have a lot of really bad matchups. And as we saw, sometimes it's not enough in the previous round, like we saw undead lost both games. So I think it should be fine. Quick Bowmore. Ban zombie pirate deckhands. Oh man. When we get if we ever have a Return of the Living faction where they can ban undead units, do you know how broken that would be? The undead frontline always consists of like 1 or 2 units, so you could just annihilate that with one ban even. That would be brutal. Just absolutely brutal. But overall, I'm pretty confident here. I think Bowmore could still bring some interesting choices that would be scary for us. But honestly, I think we're in a pretty good place. Why does no one ever ban Inticity's Coast? In this tournament, Undead pick first, and then your opponent counter picks. So it's almost, the tournament is almost set up just for me, so I can play Coast as much as I want. But there was a lot of discussion. I think some people or AC Maiden speculated that Vampire Counts would be really meta here. But honestly, I think Vampire Coast is the winner. There's just so much stuff. Now, if it was Voidlaws playing, I think his Vampire Counts with 2 bans could beat basically everyone. Let's be honest here, Voidlaws, one of the top undead players in the entire game. He'd probably hard carry the Vampire Counts, but I think for me, Vampire Coast is definitely a very fun option. Let's go ahead and ready up while we wait. Oh boy, Bowmore is ready. He has an idea, but will it be enough? I'm thinking, you know, maybe he'll have a crazy gun line that could be quite scary. Maybe he will have... I'm not sure. Maybe a full kite build that would be decent. I'm not sure. But overall, if I do lose this game, that would be pretty tragic, as I'm pretty confident here. But you never know. For the army of Bowmore, we are seeing just a huge army. Oh my gosh, 1,500 units. That is larger even than some Vampire Coast armies before their unit counts got nerfed. So quite scary indeed. Meanwhile, we have our dogs that we'll be taking to the flanks. This is my classic build against Skaven, except now we have an artillery piece to make sure that we are a little bit safer here, as Warp Lightning Cannons gave me trouble earlier when I was playing against Chosen One, and I definitely don't want to be dying to that again. So the cannon can be placed quite aggressively to make sure that we're in range of our opponent when the battle starts, and it's going to be a slow march forward, picking off single entities with our deck droppers. You're expecting 19 Skaven slaves. Now that would be a build. And yes, we got the good boys. We banned his dogs so that we could take our own. What a perfect scenario. But what is Bowmore going to have? 4 Plague Claws would also be fun. That would be something for sure. Probably a bad choice against Vampire Coast Rush like this one. But it would be something. We do have the Ghosts of the Past though, which is my saving grace here. If we're worried about any really range unit being a problem, we can chase them down with these knights and shut them down. This is especially good against Jezzails, and that's exactly what I'm going to be using it for. The deck droppers too will be great, and I'm going to put them on the flank with Silostra actually, so that she can summon the knights, and while they run away they get picked off by the deck droppers. A perfect situation for us. Balance of power dead even, because there are no wolf rats, and this also implies there are no warp fire throwers, because those guys also contribute more to the balance of power, something that I learned very recently. And it seems like he's ready. So let's go ahead and dive on into the match and see what our opponent has brought. Now, question number one, do I need to advance? It seems like that's a no, as there are, there's not really much here in terms of ranged. There could be some Jezzails that I'll have to worry about, but overall the range is very low for the Skaven. I imagine he'll have a lot of skirmishers though, since these are just all Skaven slave spears. Let's see, how many units does he have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. So if he does have skirmishers, it's going to be fairly low. That means I don't have to advance that aggressively. And instead I can hang back a little bit and just get comfortable. Sit nice and tight, use my deck droppers, pick off some rat ogres, and we're in a really nice spot. The mutant rat ogres too, although scary, not gonna be too much of a threat here, as I can simply just poke them down. There are, however, some Eshin triads, and there are also some night runners that are going to be pretty brutal. A huge AoE on my deck droppers too, I forgot. The Warp Storm Scroll, gonna be picking them down rather hard. That's gonna be rough for them. Let's go ahead and pull them back into a safer place and instead just work away this front line. You know, we're in no real rush here, and we have the armor of the crabs, so I think the frontline fight should be really fine for me. One problem is that I do not have a lot of deck droppers left. I have no healing, so that's going to be a little bit scary for them, but overall still quite nice for me. We've pushed through the front line, which is really nice. Silostra getting a little bit ahead of herself, but what we can do here is throw down some big old debuffs onto these forces here, hit their leadership, hit them with the wolf rats, and then we should be able to see lots of routes here in just a second. I want to get a mass route so that my wolf rats can chase down the Skaven forces, and then from there we should be okay. Let's go ahead and continue throwing down as many debuffs as we can, and then throw down our terror-causing knights. For our wolf rats, it seems like we did catch them, unfortunately, with a few of those, with some of our AoEs. It's going to be a little bit rough for them, but overall, since the Gracier is in such a bad place, I think we're okay. One of my Leviathans, though, is having a little bit of a rough time, and I do have to be a little bit careful here, as my deck droppers are basically my only anti-large. It's going to be up to them to actually shut down those rat ogres, and I think I'm going to pull back Silostra to keep her safe. The monster squad for the Skaven going to be a little bit scary until I'm able to whittle down the rest of their forces. Like the rat ogres, I want them off the battlefield. And then if it's just Silostra and a few single entities, my wolf rat cycle charging plus the leadership loss of losing the Gracier should be enough to win the game. But Silostra is having a really rough time here. Let's go ahead and throw down another big leadership debuff and use no, my artillery piece is dead. I think it got hit by the storm vermin. That's going to be pretty scary. And Silostra is taking a bit of a beating. I'm a little bit worried here for Silostra. It seems like the mutant rat ogres could, if the mutant rat ogres are actually the solution here to my undead army, that would be very scary indeed. The wolf rats having a bit of a rough time chasing down this Gracier, but we do still have a single unit of deck droppers, and it's going to be up to them to hopefully win out the game. But the balance of power going to the favor of Bowmore against all odds. The double mutant rat ogre build going to be pulling things through a little bit, especially with the loss of my deck droppers. It's going to be a little bit scary, but one thing that I do have that is to my advantage is that I do still have a lot of infantry. Silostra, against all odds, has managed to stay alive, and she's causing a lot of terror here. The Skaven Lord will be going down very soon to my deck droppers, which is going to be a huge leadership hit. And then I'll be able to start chasing off many of the large single entities for the Skaven. But perhaps that's not enough. Perhaps it's not enough. The Gracier surviving the deck droppers against all odds. He's at basically no HP. And my Leviathan is dying. Bowmore, you absolute madman. Showing that the Monster Mash is the true way to go in this tournament today. But it's not over yet. It's not over yet. The Gracier is down. There we go. He's finally dead. And I really need to get a terror out on these Rat Ogres. So that means charging in with the Wolf Rats, getting in a big charge into their backs, and hopefully getting them to rout. But the Leviathan is down now. The Leviathan is down, and that means it's just these Rat Ogres against my Wolf Rats and some Deck Dropper Pistols. We do have a couple zombies here that will be able to charge in, but the army loss is hit. GG. Well played. Oh my gosh. And the single entity build coming out on top. The Warp Storm Scroll to shut down my Flyers. What an absolutely devastating game, Bowmore. Bowmore, you beast. You beast. Oh, I got the names mixed up. Coming in with a solid victory here. Honestly, that's a little bit scary. That is a little bit scary. Nicely tuned build. Let's see, Anticity at 0. There we go. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that MVP scroll, I know. That if I had managed to keep my deck droppers alive, that definitely would have won it there, but because like one of them got 800 gold value. Oof. Oof, big oof. But there we go. He will have to win the next match as Undead though to win. Oh man. Oh man, very close at the end indeed. Which means now we have to counterpick his Undead. Now I have a few good options here, but we'll have to see. I think overall, I think my counterpicks to Undead should be fine. I'll probably go Dwarves just because I really do love my Dowie. And then we'll have to win the Ace match, which could be problematic. The Ace match is really a toss-up. My ability to create a strong build, I'm not sure how well it'll go. He goes for the Vampire counts. And what will we go for? I think the Wood Elves is a pretty nice option. Wood Elves is really nice against the counts. They will have a lot of bans, which makes things really scary. Potentially the High Elves is a really nice choice too. High Elves are nice. Let's see, what would he ban that would be really worrying? He could do similar bans to last time, but you know what? You know what? Let's go for the Dwarves. You know, let's see what Bowmore has in store for us. High Elves, I think, are probably the most meta pick, but I really want to see if the Dwarves can do well here. The map, too, is Southern Chaos Wastes. Southern Chaos Wastes. And I think this map is fine for the Dwarves. Shouldn't be too much of a hindrance. But what is he going to ban? If we remove this real quick. He has a couple good options. Slayers, definitely a very strong choice here. How to beat double Vargulf, says High Elves. Generally, there's a few ways. You can do the good old Techless Net combo. But yeah, there's a few ways to deal with them. He's gonna ban Thorek. That's gonna be rough. He's gonna ban Slayers. We do still have Giant Slayers. But what else? What else? He's considering his options. Oh. For some reason, Great Weapon Giant Slayers do not count as variants. That is strange. Is that an oversight in the fruit rules? Yeah, they don't count as variants, so we could still bring those, but he might ban Giant Slayers too, which would leave us in a predicament. Iron Drakes, Thorek, and Slayers. Okay, we got some speculation in chat. Yeah, it's really weird, Bubba's, but you know, we're sticking to the rules. If they don't count as variants, they don't count as variants. I don't know why, but whatever. Lorefully not. Lorefully? Do the variant limits consider the lore? I would not know. Oh, I guess on tabletop they might be hero units, right? I'm not sure. He's thinking longbeards or troll hammers. Oh man, he bans longbeards. Oh boy. All right. So let's go ahead and set up our army against the vicious undead here. I got some ideas. We can work without slayers and longbeards and Thorek. I think we should be just fine. Yep. The Banes affect both variants, but we haven't seen an undead win yet. So potentially they need even more support. But I'm not willing to call that just yet. Let's see. Let us see. The price difference. Surely, oh yeah, that's true. The price difference is pretty different between the two slayers. Indeed. I got a pretty nice build though. Overall, I'm feeling okay. I think we have a decent chance here. So let's go ahead and do some of this. Yeah, I feel okay. Now the question is, without Thorek, not having Thorek will limit my options quite a bit, which is unfortunate. But I don't think we are fully hampered here, as we can still bring a pretty scary dwarf army. You feel like the Dowie have good options? Dwarf warriors to use instead of longbeards? Yeah. Dwarf warriors are a lot less effective than longbeards, admittedly. But it's not like they're a terrible unit by any means. Let's see. And I think that should be fine. Overall, I'm looking at my army. It looks pretty nice. So the only thing left is to simply test it out. I do not have Thorek, I do not have Longbeards or Slayers. But what will Bowmore decide to bring in this match? We shall see. We shall see indeed. Ooh, how does this look? I think this is okay. I think this is okay. Okay, ready. All right, Bowmore. What do you got? What do you got? It's a very flat map, which is to our advantage. It's pretty large, so I think it's okay. Longbeards are ITP. They are, which is what makes them so strong, especially against undead. My front line is going to be routing off a lot faster than usual. That's going to be the main threat. Nick saying, I don't think you need the Rune of Doom versus Vampire counts. Which one is the Rune of Doom? Is that the ITP one? I'm not sure. Okay, very large map here. I'm going to deploy pretty far forwards. This makes it harder for my opponent to chase off my units at route. Gives them a higher chance of rallying. I have my Giant Slayers going to be sitting nice and tight in the back. And I can opt for a bit of a wider formation here. In fact, my enemy troop count is not that large. And with some Iron Breakers, I think I should be able to deal with Graveguard decently well. We have a couple miners here too. And their job is simply to hold the line. If a couple units manage to sneak by, they'll be sitting as reserves over here. And the Iron Breakers will be supporting the rest of the army. We have our Quarrelers, who can sit fairly far back. No need to really push too far forwards with them. And that's basically it. Slayers over here. And I just need to make sure that my Quarrelers don't get too shut down. It really depends on the mobility of my opponent. And we'll have to reposition depending on that. Runesmith, too, coming on in with the Rune of Slowness. We're going to use that to hit up his Lord if he flies too close. And that's basically it. So good luck, have fun to my opponent. Let's see if he has what it takes to break this defensive formation. Now, my front line will be collapsing a little bit further, a little bit faster, but we do have Thorgrim. And Thorgrim is a beast. I do believe he should be able to put a pretty big hurting on a lot of the vampire count's single entities here. And you know what? I'll use him for a bit of mass on the left flank in case we see a Vargulf or something trying to charge in. Some zombie summons might drop too, which is why we do have these slayers at the ready. And by spreading out our range units, we don't have to worry about zombie summons that much. So I think it's a pretty nice army. Good luck, have fun. Bowmore, have at thee. Right away, we are seeing, what's this? He has a necromancer on a cart. Let's go ahead and focus him down with the artillery. There's a Lamian vampire lord in the air too. We might want to focus her down where we can. But overall, there's not too much to really worry about here. We don't have to really reform ranks either, which is always nice. And the black coach, we'll want to make sure we pin that down with Thorgrim. Meanwhile, necromancer giving some jukes in, trying to dodge as much as he can. It's going to be nice for him, but you know what? Let's target down the Lamian Lord, I think. We'll try and get a few shots in onto her. And meanwhile, we can reform ranks so that we can deal with the crypt ghouls and so on. Now, there are some fellbats, and we don't have that many slayers, so that's going to make things a little bit scarier for us, as we would want slayers to kill the fellbats a little bit faster. And you know what? We'll have to choose a side to sacrifice. I think these giant slayers are going to go on the left flank, and Thorgrim is going to move on over to the right to punish the Lamian Lord a little bit. The cannon doing quite well against her. That should be quite nice. A little bit of early poke damage, and eventually I will want to go in on the black coach, but not quite yet. Overall, we don't really need too much here to really worry about the fellbats. It's mostly just the slayers that'll be doing cleanup, and then our front line will be doing its best to hold against the tides of the undead. Meanwhile, Lamian Lord still taking a lot of damage. We're gonna hit her with the slow now, and then get our quarrelers to try and shut her down. So the slow has dropped, artillery is firing, and slayers, they're going to be diving in on those nasty undead zombies. Gonna clear them up for the artillery to do well, and the quarrelers get some really nice damage out the get-go. Black coach is going to be diving in on the dwarf warriors. Let's see if we can brace for that charge to save a little bit of HP on them. Lamian Lord has taken a ton of damage so far though, and look at that brace. Amazing against, just amazing there against the undead. Wind of Death, thankfully, not getting that much damage in. I'm a bit surprised that it did so little, but I'm happy with that. And we'll see if the mass changes continue to help us out here. Lamian Lord, surprisingly, still actually routing, but the undead have begun converging forwards. Now, we want to make sure that the Graveguard don't get too much damage. Thorgrim, yes, not Thorek. He's going to be popping some buffs to try and keep these quarrelers alive while they focus on the black coach, and he's going to start chasing that down. These dwarf warriors are going to hit up those zombies. And these blasting charges, they're going to hit up those Graveguard great weapons. Slayers are going to be an amazing tool here to assist while the bats dive in on our forces. Now the bats are not going to be too scary, as they don't do that much damage, but they will pin down my quarrelers and make it hard for them to shoot in specific directions. A breath attack on the right flank is going to be rather scary too, but at least for the Vargulf, he's having a pretty rough day. That's really nice for us. We're going to turn our crossbows too, to try and... Oh, come on, throw those blasting charges. We're going to turn our crossbows to try and shoot down the necromancer now. Not the best target, but the one that we can find currently. We're still hunting down the Vargulf, and so far our front line is doing okay. There's still a unit of Graveguard that we have to worry about. And overall, the Vargulf is outpacing the Slayers a little bit. Over here on the flank, Giant Slayer still chasing down the Vargulf, and in about a minute and a half we'll have another slow to hopefully pin him down. As for the blasting charges, it seems like we did successfully get rid of the Graveguard. See if I can get another volley down, and we're going to keep an eye here so that the Lamian Lord doesn't get another breath attack. We definitely don't want that to be dropping on our units. Our Quarrelers, though, are holding up quite well. And that's going to be really good for them. These blasting charges, we want to keep them on the move so that the breath attack does not just annihilate them. And it seems like that was a good call, as they do manage to dodge that attack. So that's going to save them a little bit of trouble. Meanwhile, the Lamian Lord landing again in my troops. I'll see if I can actually get a good hit on her with my Quarrelers. Do I have a slow? I don't have a slow just yet, so we'll have to wait for that. But the Giant Slayers, they actually will trade decently into Graveguard. So let's go ahead and get a nasty charge over there and see if they can help those Longbeards in the fight. We'll throw down Thorgrim's debuff there to really hurt those Graveguard in just a second as soon as their charge bonus wears off. And for the Black Coach, it seems like the mass of the Dwarves is going to be helping us out quite a bit. Let's go ahead and throw down some buffs to really make sure this fight goes our way. And we are seeing the Graveguard crumbling down. Balance of power even slightly in our favor. That is a very good sign for us. And only one unit of Graveguard left, really. So that's really good. Lamian Lord having a rough time there. Oh, actually, there is one unit of Graveguard over here that will be a little bit scary. But overall, Thorek, he's going to be helping out in the fight. The Black Coach not finding a lot of good targets. The mass changes really helping out the infantry a lot. And if we can take out the units of Graveguard, we should be okay. Now, breath attacks are still a threat, and I'm going to preemptively pull my units again since I am oh so worried about that, just tearing apart my forces. It will allow me to get another cycle charge too, which is always great. And Thorgrim, he's going to be just a huge pain to actually shut down. He has crazy high HP and shouldn't really have a lot to worry about, except for the Lamian Lord cycle charging him. But she is quite busy currently trying to deal with the rest of these units, so I think I'll be okay. And not only that, I can pressure her with some more arrows from the Quarrelers, and hopefully I can get some damage. Meanwhile, Black Coach looking like it wants to get another cycle charge in. And oh, is that a breath attack? No, okay, thankfully she doesn't get a breath attack down, but it looks like she's looking for one. So I'm going to constantly pull my units around to really make sure that they do not get hit. She's going to land in some Dwarf Warriors, and potentially a good time to slow her down. I don't think I have to just yet though, so I will hold and maybe do that later. But actually, as Thorek gets close, I'm going to throw down the slow, but it seems like she will be able to escape, and I don't think Thorek will be able to find that. So actually a bit of a wasted slow on my runesmith there. That's going to be a little bit rough. The vampire counts too coming out slowly ahead on the balance of power, but I think overall my unit strength is quite good. These iron breakers though, I do not want them to get breath attack, so I'm going to pull them. I'm going to pull these Slayers. Come on, get to safety. No! Oh my gosh, the Slayers take a massive hit, but the Necromancer does too. So I don't think I don't think all is lost. And that's going to be the last breath attack also, which means it's going to come down to a grind of these single entities. And given that I have Thorek here, that's going to be a little bit scary for the forces of the Undead. Of course, the Black Coach is going to be very annoying, but I do have my artillery crew, and they will be able to man this artillery. That could be a surprise in the late game for my opponent that could help me out a lot, as manning artillery late game, that cannon could potentially get in a lot of damage onto the Lamian Lord. As for my Slayers, it seems like they're still doing okay. They've managed to finish off the rest of the units over there, just a couple zombies. And Thorek is putting on a pretty nice beating onto that Vargulf. The Dragon Lord looks like she will be landing back in, but I do still have a healthy unit of Iron Breakers, and they're not going to be running anytime soon. Not to mention a couple units rallying. It's definitely a very close game, but I'm feeling pretty confident here. We're also going to man the artillery to try and get some pot shots in on the Lamian Lord. That should put her in a really rough situation. Of course, a zombie summon did drop, but we did get a few shots in. I do want to try hitting the Vargulf, but that zombie summon looks like it will be stopping my guys, unfortunately. Still though, pretty good situation. This unit of Graveguard will be falling soon, and as soon as the zombie summons run out, the vampire counts are going to have to stay on the ground, which will be very scary for them indeed. Lamian Lord trying to get some charges in, but a very precarious situation, especially with 15 Slayers on the ground. As they are giant Slayers, they are extremely scary here, as they just get crazy damage against large. And the Lamian Lord, she does land on Thorek, but a little bit of a buff and some mass from my units. It's gonna have her running away again. Let's go ahead and get my artillery crew back. Pull them into a bit of a safer position too. Another zombie summon does drop. That sort of sucks for the Slayers, but I have enough units here where I think it's okay. As for these Iron Breakers, they're still at 52 models, and probably the biggest worry for them is the Black Coach, maybe? As it does have a lot of armor-piercing damage, so I'll need to make sure Thorek is nearby to keep them busy. Some Quarrelers too look like they will be getting chased off. Thorek starting to get low on HP, and same with the Slayers. Although, man, he just knocks over the Vargulf like it's no issue at all. But leadership is starting to run pretty low, so we will have to be a little bit careful here. Let's go ahead and turn Thorek also. Hit that Lamian Vampire Lord with the debuffs. And see if I can take her out. Oh my gosh, she terror routs Thorek. Oh god, I keep saying Thorek. She terror routs Thorgrim. That's gonna be pretty scary. But he will be coming back. Thankfully, he didn't break. We still have the Iron Breakers too, but it's a very close game. He's gonna get hit by another slow. I do still have the Giant Slayers. Man, I really wish they hadn't taken that breath attack though, as the breath attack really gave them, a rough time. Let's go ahead and brace these guys too against the Black Coach, and then bring Thorgrim to shut it down. But yeah, that was a really rough time. If I had just a couple more Slayers, this game would not even be close. But instead, it's getting a little bit dicey. Thankfully, the Black Coach will be going down. It can't disengage to cycle charge, though it can disengage to chase away units, and it looks like it will be doing just that. I do have some slows for the Lamian Vampire Lord, though, so that should work out okay. Black Coach looks like it will be plowing through a couple of my Dwarf Warriors. We'll try our hardest to regroup with them. These guys are braced, so it won't do too much damage, but I think the terror routes are going to be getting them off the battlefield, unfortunately. A couple shots from my Quarrelers do okay, but I think the Vampire counts, they are running low on leadership now. Thorgrim is still a beast to take down, and we have 6 Slayers. A zombie summon would be really bad though, and I think that's likely what's going to be coming on to ruin our day. Black Coach does manage to plow into the Quarrelers. We'll be routing them off, but we did regroup with our Dwarf Warriors. So that's going to be really nice. Let's go ahead and get the Slayers, group them on top of the Iron Breakers, and then get Thorgrim grouping up with them too. This is going to be our little pocket of leadership here. There's no more breath attacks, so that should be fine. And I guess we just stand and sit tight. All my forces are broken. I guess I have a unit of miners over there in the very far distance. But this is it. This is what it comes down to. Let's go ahead and reposition. Get ready for our opponent to dive on in. And see if we can win it. Looks like the Lamian Lord going in for probably a fake dive. Yeah, looks like she doesn't want to dive in. And the Black Coach is going to move in onto these guys. Proc the buff. Give a slow to the Lamian Lord. And see if we can take her out. She is the main focus here. And she is in a pretty bad situation. It doesn't look like she has any winds of magic. And with the slows, I should be able to land in some hits. She has all of the debuffs going down on her now. But she has buffed herself too, boosting her resistances. Another slow from the Runesmith will hopefully land. It looks like it does, but Thorgrim is taking a lot of damage himself. The Lamian Lord dives in though, pretty aggressively. Balance of power is not in my favor, so I really need Thorgrim to land his hits. It seems like he gets one in. The Slayers, we are at 3 right now. They're slowly chunking away, and I think she will be going down. I just need one more hit to take her out. The Runesmith does rout though, but the Lamian Lord does fall, which means it's just Thorgrim against a Black Coach and a Vargulf now. There's no more zombie summons, and we still have 2 Slayers who might be able to do well. As for the Runesmith, it seems like he's going to get ganged up on by the Black Coach, but the undead forces are crumbling. And I think we won it. We won't call GG just yet, because we may still lose it. But the final blob went in our favor, thanks to there not being one more zombie summon. If there was, I think we definitely would have lost it. But definitely a very close game to be sure. Vargulf is going to be going down. And man, oh man, I'm happy Thorgrim is such a beast. Look at that, 62-62 on his melee stats. He's gonna take out the Vargulf. Oh my gosh, and we will be able to win. The 32 Norgrimlings got this. Apparently so. Apparently so. All right. I know, I keep saying Thorek. I keep saying Thorek. What a bad habit. But Thorgrim Grudgebearer. What an absolute beast. Even one Slayer managing to fail his Slayer oath, but definitely doing me a lot of favors. Coming out with the victory in this match. Whew. Oh my gosh, look at that black coach. Really nice value. Same with the Vargulf and the Lamian Lord. But the cannon paying for itself, the Quarrelers, these guys are amazing here. And Thorgrim paying for himself too. Doing really well in the late game situation. Providing the melee attack buffs and also Giant Slayers. Giant Slayers are not a unit to sleep on. Look at that, 2,300 value. Really, really nice for them. Which means we will be going on to the ace match now. We will have to contact a moderator. Let's see if AC Maiden is around, I guess. Let's see, at AC Maiden. We need you to do our blind picks. All right. Woo. Are we just learning that Undead are not a good faction? Apparently so. Apparently Undead is just literal garbage. Oh man. Okay, so what monster mash do we want to do? Let's see. What are some good options here? Who has the biggest, the baddest monsters? Maybe Norska? Maybe the Greenskins? I feel like Greenskins are pretty ballin'. You know what? Let's do this. Okay, so I've DM'd the moderator. I know what faction I'm going, and we'll be seeing what Bowmore decides to go for in just a second. Whew. Me and Bowmore. Oh man. Undead are garbage and first pick without bans. See, I was thinking, you know, Undead, I always felt like they were on the precipice of being an amazing faction for all of them. But even with the 2 unit bans and a hero ban, they still aren't winning games. I don't know, but a lot of us here aren't Undead mains. I did lose as Vampire Coast, which was rough, but there we go. Yeah, I'm sorry guys, I went vanilla this time. You know, I really should have stuck with the green skins. Grimgore would have been sick. Oh man, now I have to do Torox. Garbage. Garbage, guys. But we got Lizardmen. So essentially this is going to play out exactly like how it normally plays out on ladder, just with a fewer units of infantry. Should be pretty straightforward. Well, let's workshop what single entity squad here we want, right? We can go for the behemoths. They're obviously pretty scary. What, we need 4 single entity monsters? That's gonna be a lot to build up to, but I think these guys are probably a pretty cool option. So let's go ahead and set her up. Ooh, now that's a good option. Okay. Now, Beastmen, they're known for the mobile monsters, but they also have some pretty slow monsters that are good too. I'm going to be trying to use that to my advantage here. But yeah. Yeah, I think we're in pretty good shape actually. Looking at my build right now, it's pretty gross. It is pretty gross, I would say. Yes, AC Maiden is not in the AC clan. It's just AC, DC, and Iron Maiden. Amazing. And it led to infinite confusion. Alright, let's see. Now, what magic do you want? In like a monster mash? I'm not sure what lores of magic are the best here. There's a few good options for sure. Ooh, oh, now that's a good option. That's a really good option. And then what, this? Ooh, okay. I think I have some pretty nice... I think I got some pretty nice strats here. If I do this... Yeah, I think I got some pretty nice strats. I'm feeling confident here. Double Cygor. And just range him to death. That's pretty fun. Let's see. Now, I know the Lizardmen can go for a lot of salamander mobility type play. That's what's worrying me a lot. Of course, their cavalry is really scary too. So there's a lot to worry about. Let's see, what is this? 1, 2, 3, 4. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, I have 4 single entity monsters. Sweet. Sweet. At Enticity, do you think they will revamp and update old spells? Or just the new lores in Warhammer 3? Oof. I know that they're changing up the spells a lot for Warhammer 3. So I feel like we'll get a little bit of revamp action there. I like to be cautiously optimistic about that. Yeah, I think we'll get a couple spells. Actually, you know what? No, that's too optimistic. There's no way. It really depends on how they implement the old systems, but like it's a lot of work to do that, and it seems like most of their effort wants to go towards DLCs. So I would say probably not, actually. They probably won't be blessing us with a huge revamp of their systems. Very unfortunate, I know, but that is my prediction. Okay, now I think I have my build ready. This should be under 300. Yep, it is. Okay. Okay. Ready. All right, Bowmore. Let's see if you got what it takes. At Enticity, any AoE streams? Maybe. I was considering it. Before the channel sort of just exploded out of nowhere, I definitely would have been really interested in doing Age of Empires streams to sort of mix it up a bit. Right now, I'll probably be fitting them in if I have the energy to do it. But the primary goal right now is to continue the tutorial series, which is eating up a lot of my time. If I can manage to keep that up, though, I think we should be good. And then I'll throw in some. And then after that, we'll throw in some Age of Empires streams. I've been playing it a lot, actually. Overall, I'm really liking Age of Empires. I still prefer Warhammer, but definitely something I want to be strong at. Do you think the Warriors of Chaos are going to be significantly reworked for Warhammer 3? I would say yes, given that it's all about chaos. It'd be pretty sad if they didn't get a rework. Yeah, and LoremasterOfSotek keeps talking about Bellacore, so I would expect there to be some pretty nice changes there. Yes, the real money. Streaming Halo Wars 2. You know what? I did enjoy playing Rust for a while, but see, if you want to double down on something, you need the passion to work on it for potentially a really long amount of time. And for me, I only have passion for Warhammer. This is the only game that I've really been able to sink just insane hours into. And I haven't really been able to find that anywhere else. It's strange. Strange for sure. But here we go. Here's the army. Very nice and simple. We got our single entities in the Manticores and the Giants. We have Minotaurs for mass, and we have no infantry, which worries me a tiny bit. But we want to keep the army small. It's fine. Unless you want to switch. Good luck, have fun. All right, so it looks like we're good. Let's go ahead and start the battle and take a look at its army. You see Skink Oracles, Troglodon. It's a very similar army to last time. Nakai. Carnosaur? No, he went for double Skink Oracle. Now that's an interesting choice. For me, I have my mobility force here that will hopefully be doing well, and I think the Manticores are just gonna dive right on in onto these guys over here. We got Cygor summons and some debuffs, which I think will be really nice for me. And right off the bat, I guess we just start the skirmish phase. Fireball is gonna be dropping. Gonna be popping Manticore in the face. Hurts him a little bit, but nothing too worrying. And now the engage begins. 2 Manticores are gonna distract the Skink Oracles. Taurox and Minotaurs are gonna wreck those Kroxigors. Like, no one's business. We don't need to dive in on those Oracles just yet. We'll pull in the Chariots. Cause a few distractions here. And now dive in on those Oracles. Now, we do have a pretty significant mobility advantage. The Chariots should be able to do well too. Big AoE debuff will be helping us out here. And my goal is to deal with the mass. I think the Kroxigors are probably the units that I want to get rid of the most. Taurox isn't in really any threat right now, so I think he should be fine. And the Chariots are just gonna cycle charge, getting in as many hits as they can, while I also try to deal with these Cold One cavalry units. The Skink Oracles looks like they want to be diving in on the Chariots, but as they give up the chase, I want the Chariots to engage onto them to hopefully shut them down. I don't want them shooting very often. And in the meantime, Taurox is just gonna be brutalizing this poor Kroxigor over here. Nakai, just getting in as much damage as he can. My dogs will chase off the cavalry, and as long as those Troglodons are shut down, I think we'll be okay. The 2 skirmish cavalry is going to be helping a lot too, as the lizardmen don't have a lot to really deal with them. And ooh, even the Cygor tanking some hits for me is going to be really, really nice. Let's go ahead and debuff the spears too, so that they do not get too much damage on my forces here. The infantry is quite threatening, as they are very heavily anti-large, and I would not want them to be punishing me too bad, but with the slamming in of the Chariots, I'm feeling pretty comfortable. Taurox is still doing good too, but Nakai is at fairly high HP. That's definitely a little bit worrying. The Troglodons are back up and online too, which is very scary, but thankfully one of them actually charges in and dives in onto my Giants. The Giants too are just great. They have insane HP, and I think they do better than the Behemoths if you don't need the mobility, which is why I took them in this battle. And it seems like that will be paying off. Let's go ahead and get the Minotaurs too to finish off these Kroxigors, and then the rest of the army should be going down to my mobility. And there we go, poor Nakai the Wanderer going down. The 2 Giants, at both of them above half HP. I think we managed to get a pretty nice win here. GG. Well played, Bowmore. Well played. But we will be winning the monster match this time around with a pretty disgusting blob. We got the double giant Taurox, double Manticore play. Feeling pretty good. Lizardmen, not good enough in the monster match, ironically. Yeah. They did okay against... Actually, no, they lost against the Dark Elves, too. I just think they don't have those big, slow monsters that you want. Maybe like a double Dreadsaurian is what will actually do it. I'm not sure. But yeah, the double giant. It's pretty good. LoremasterOfSotek saying, I'd literally bet my firstborn on Be'lakor. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Imagine. Yeah, the Minotaurs did really well. I forgot to check the values. I'm so sorry, guys. Sounds good. Jeez. Alright. So today we've established that the undead are terrible and that monster mashes are really hard to predict. A lot of people have gone lizardmen, and it has failed in some cases and done well in others. And now, if only I had Mike with that vampire counts ending better. Yeah. Bowmore nearly taking the victory. But not today, good sir. We defend the title. And that means that we will be moving on to the finals of the tournament. It's going to be ourself against AC Maiden. It's been waiting patiently for us in the finals. We will be seeing who manages to win it. All right, Maiden, come at me. Oh my gosh, it's a moderator battle. This tournament today has consisted of basically all moderators. If you didn't know, I made the channel Bowmore is a mod, Maiden is a mod, Human Boy is a mod. So, I guess whoever manages to win today will be reinvesting the funds into more tournaments, which will be really fun. Battle for Middle-earth 2 is the real next big thing in RTS. Ooh, yeah. Honestly, I've missed out on like all the RTSs that have come out in the past few years. There was that one where it's like where you play as the sort of the mice, right? It's like Tooth and Tail, right? That one looked pretty cool, but it wasn't a traditional RTS, which is always unfortunate. But I'm happy that we have Age of Empires now. Let's see, Vampire Coast. I will play Coast until the day I die. Or until they get nerfed into the ground. I'm excited to see what Maiden decides to go for. Now, interesting thing, as my clanmate, he has more practice against my Coast than many other players in the world. So I would expect him to have a pretty decent chance here. But I'm not sure. See, that was really cool because there was an RTS that worked well with a controller. Yes, I think in terms of innovation, Tooth and Tail was like just chef's kiss. That I didn't do the right thing, but chef's kiss. It was really, really nice. I still like my traditional RTSs, but it's pretty sick. It was pretty sick. Now, Vampire Coast here. He's going the Wood Elves, and I will be able to ban. I'll be able to ban quite a bit. I can ban the Sylvan Knights. I can ban the Cavalry for the Wood Elves. That would be pretty good. Or I can ban their range units. Bowmore telling Maiden to avenge him. Oh dear. Now, if I ban the Glade Guard and the Deepwood Scouts, what is Maiden gonna do? Is he gonna melee rush me? I feel like that's a terrible idea. So maybe I just do that. Maybe I just force him to melee rush me. He will have the Sylvan Knights, which is a bit scary, but I think we're okay. I'll ban Glade Guard. I'll ban ranged Glade Guard on foot. So that's all of them. And ooh, do I ban Deepwood Scouts? Do I really need? Yeah, I'll ban Deepwood Scouts. Deepwood Scouts. And the hero, I'm gonna ban Drycha. And ban Drycha. There we go. Pretty good. Overall, I think this is a good place to be. Depth Guard were always useless. Oh man, poor Depth Guard. Apparently they used to be OP in the beta before the thing. Waystalker, I'm not too worried about Waystalkers. He's forced to full-on rush me, so it helps a lot for sure. Alternatively, I could have banned his melee infantry, which would have been hilarious, but not this time around. Now, since I have been playing with my moderators for a while, I don't actually need to. No stream snipe. All right, Maiden, if you're in chat, get out of here. I do trust him implicitly as he is my mod, so we can actually go over some strategy here. Now, it's gonna be a rush, unless he goes Mass Waywatcher, which is, I would say that is unlikely. Although he might try it just to throw a curveball in there. Okay, it's on pause. Wonderful. So Mass Waywatcher could be a thing. I will go for Noctilus, but I need magic damage, and honestly, there aren't that many sources of magic damage. Melkoth's Miasma is okay. Nothing too crazy. Alternatively, Silostra pick would be hilarious, but not exactly what I want to be going for here. All right. Let's see. I could just go for a single Deeps caster. I could have gone. I could go for the full air dominance, which is pretty fun too. They could make Depth Guard as good as they were in beta, and still no one would pick them. Honestly, probably. Although I never actually got to experience them, but maybe they are. Maybe they are much stronger than I thought. Ooh, one interesting thing. Does Maiden have magic damage? He has dryads, but I don't know if he has much else after that. Potentially the mass sirens play. Melkoth's mystifying miasma is your new brand of cologne. Pre-order today, yeah. I feel like that's like an anti-name. That's anti-marketing right there. Let's see, I'm tempted to go like Silostra for the magic damage. Very, very tempted. I will want a bunch of deckhands for sure. And then probably a bunch of sirens. Probably a bunch of those, ladies. Couple bombers to reinforce the front line. Do I go for the double gunnery white? Of course, the ranged Way Watchers is going to be a little bit scary. But like a full-on frontal rush, maybe? Yeah, Glade Riders are a little bit scary. He may go mass air, that's true. Alternatively, I go for a full-on defensive style, which is pretty good. You know, Dryads, how scary are Dryads, right? Honestly, this matchup is still pretty scary, despite dealing with many of the threats. We still have to worry a little bit. How bad would mass air be? You know what? I feel like I sort of need the double gunnery white. Let's go ahead and do that for safety. That will ensure that I'm not going to die to air units, which is very good for me. We have a nasty front line. We got lots of bombers. We have sirens. Let's see. I do want some rotting Prometheans. Wear a fragrance that makes the ladies go, huh? Is that actually a slogan? Or are you just making stuff up at this point? Alright, let's see. What are we looking at here? I don't have any anti-Sylvan Knight. That freaks me out, guys. I could just hope. I could hope that he doesn't have what he needs against Sylvan Knights. Alternatively, you know, we could do something like this. Some bomber play. Will we win the air? You know, if he goes for a bunch of flyers, he can't have that much on the ground. And then once the Dryads are down, we have a bunch of Sirens, which is decent. If he goes for Way Watcher Kite, well, the Siren should be able to tank through that fairly well. And a max cavalry rush should be able to deal with it, I think. I believe. Ooh, we don't have the moon dial though. Let's go ahead and take out some zombies for that. And see if it can be done. AC Maiden. Will you be able to fare against the undead build? We're gonna go for a mix of deck droppers in case he has no anti-air. And then hope this goes okay. We have no magic damage, but Noctilus, his cannonball shots do a lot of damage to cavalry. So as long as the Sylvan Knights can't face tank cannonballs to the face, then we will be okay. ODM, AC Maiden. Not part of Clan AC. We'll be facing up against our undead build. Noctilus. Gunnery Whites. He has a small army. Zombie deckhands. And a front line of bombers. Gonna be a really nice front line to deal with Dryads and basically any form of Wood Elf infantry. He does not have a lot of range, so we can afford to go pretty loosey-goose with our formation here. And what we can do is use the fragile units as our backline defense. There we go. So this ensures that he mostly can't really dive in on the backline because there just shouldn't be enough magic damage. At least that's the theory of it anyways. You got the deck droppers, we got the sirens, and then the two gunnery whites to provide ammunition in case this game ends up being a long one. I do have a lot of zombies, so even if he does have triple Way Watcher, he'll likely be running out of ammo pretty fast. So let's try it out. No Scab Scrat, that's right. Just to save money, because I really do need the infantry. And what do we got for Maiden? We have a Sister of Twilight in the air. Got some Glade Riders. And we got Way Watchers, so that's going to be quite scary. Let's go ahead and pull these guys back so that they do not get obliterated by the forces of the Wood Elves. And I'm going to reposition away from the forest. The reason? Simply because the forest gives them some pretty nice buffs, and we don't want to be running into that. Sisters of Twilight don't do magic damage, so the Sirens can push forwards. And it seems like he doesn't have a lot of magic damage. That's going to be good for us. He gives a good luck, have fun to the deck droppers over here. Just playing it nice and safe, and the Sirens are going to be screening as well as they can. Man, thank goodness he didn't bring Sylvan Knights. Thank goodness. We called his bluff. We called his bluff. And Noctilus is going to be doing some good old Necrofex kite here. Now, where are those Way Watchers? They got to be somewhere. Sisters of Twilight going to be a bit annoying too, but honestly, they don't do too much damage, and the Gunnery Wights can ward them away pretty nicely. So I'm not too worried there. Single shot. I think there's a Way Stalker somewhere over here. They do magic damage, so that's going to be quite scary. And we're just going to continue the kite. We're going to continue the kite. So if there's Way Stalkers, I wonder how threatening that is. I think Way Stalkers in general aren't too bad. And I can heal up my Sirens pretty well. Noctilus can keep getting a lot of value here. Just constantly taking pot shots at my opponent. AC Maiden. So I think I'm feeling okay. We just have to weather the storm really and make sure that we don't take too much damage. It's going to take another shot at the Dryads and then possibly get some bomber action here onto them too. I have to be really careful though. The Way Watchers don't do too much damage. The Gunnery Wights are going to move on forwards too. And are there Way Watchers? Did you even bring Way Watchers? This army seems suspiciously small. Of course there are 2 Way Stalkers. Picking away my Sirens very annoyingly, but I'm not seeing any Way Watchers just yet. I'm still pretty paranoid. So we're just going to continue this sort of weird, janky Undead kite against AC Maiden. And just see how it goes. Way Stalkers are continuing to poke away. One nice thing about being undead, you can group up all your damage units to give them those fat heals. That'll be doing a lot for them for sure. I just need to get these Sirens down into a safer place. Noctilus is going to turn on Fire at Will. And then we're going to pull back these bats and get that solid heal over here. And there we go. That's going to patch up all of those units nice and well. And we're going to continue the kite. Strangely enough, when you ban the Wood Elf, range units, it turns out you can actually kite them. Funnily enough. And the Dryads are moving in rather slowly, so that should be fine. And the Gunnery Wights are picking off targets. So I think we're in a pretty good place. The cavalry in the back is definitely a little bit scary, but if we just continue rotating around this rock, it can't go that badly. Gunnery Wights now going to poke away the Way Watchers, Way Stalkers, I believe they're called, and then we should be okay. I'm still convinced that there are Way Watchers somewhere here, though. And also the game is lagging, which is a perfect time to take analysis of the situation. I'm thinking Noctilus, he's going to be used to poke away at... He's gonna use some summons, actually. He's gonna use some summons to slow down the advancing Wood Elf forces. And then we should be good. We should be a-okay. As they can't engage that quickly. Let's see here. We'll throw down the summon over here on the ones that are engaging a little bit faster than I would hope. That should push them back. We got the zombies moving on up. And we got the bombers to clear out a lot of the infantry here. Bombers are pretty good against Dryads too. I'm pretty sure they do fire damage, so that should be well in our favor. The Sirens are pushing back a lot of the Wood Elf cavalry, so that's really nice. Meanwhile, the Sisters of Twilight are taking a lot of damage, and I think we're doing really well right now. Dare I say it. Meanwhile, back here, looks like the Glade Riders are getting really harassed by the Sirens. Thankfully, there weren't any units of Sylvan Knights. Otherwise, it would be a lot sketchier. And we still have our single entity force. Meanwhile, it seems like the ranged flying force cleaning up the rest of the Wood Elf army, doing quite nice, and the Sisters of Twilight taking a lot of damage. Now over here, some Dryads are going to be punishing me on the flank just a tiny bit. But I'm not too worried about that in general. Waystalkers not doing that much damage to the gunnery wights either, as they are very tanky fellows and don't have too much to worry about. And I need to start thinking about where my extra ammunition is going to go. I'm going to put it on the gunnery wights, since they do insane damage to the Sisters of Twilight. And they will be able to get that juicy 30% extra. And we still have lots of Winds of Magic. Now, none of my troops are especially beat up just yet, so I don't really need to spend that magic. So overall, pretty good. What happened to Zotes? Zotes got deleted off the game. Unfortunately, Zotes are, yeah. I don't really know exactly why. I guess they're just extremely expensive. But yeah, they fell out of favor pretty quickly, honestly. Depth Guard were mighty OP. I think Depth Guard were... I heard they were crazy good. I never actually got to experience it though, which always hurts me oh so much. But overall, yeah, this match is, I think we're pretty good. Unless three-way watchers turn up out of nowhere. I think we just walked into a really good build matchup here. You can see the Sirens. They are amazing at, even when there are Dryads on the battlefield, simply because they can so easily dodge and avoid them. So they're just sort of bouncing around, doing quite well. The Waystalkers have run out of ammunition now. And we should be good. Let's go ahead and try and pick off the Sisters of Twilight now. We have a couple deck droppers that will be able to chase them off, but it doesn't matter. AC Maiden taps out. And for the first Undead victory that we have streamed today, we're going to be winning it. And there's where the money went. I thought they were Eternal Guard. It was Azrai Spears. Who would have guessed? Who would have guessed? But the Undead Kite, just a little bit too strong for this Wood Elf army here. And overall pretty smooth. I was really happy with how that went. We didn't even need to scab scrap. How glorious. So why pay 1,800 something for Zotes when you can get 3 cheap archers for that money though? Yeah, they're just really expensive. That's sort of the gist of it. But I think some of our players are pretty happy that Zotes aren't meta, especially Zyphos, who just hates Zotes to his core. If he could delete them from the game's files, he would. Excuse me, but yeah. Not a fan of Zotes for Zyphos. I personally never had a problem with them. I hope that they would have been more OP so that they could win against Bretonia. But instead, Wood Elves are more or less in the same position they used to be. Alright, now what map are we on? We're on Northern Chaos Wastes. So we were in the south, pretty green. Now in the north, I'm pretty sure this is going to be a pretty brown map. So what are we looking at? Ah, yes. Map set. We have a little bit of a hill here. Changes things up a little bit if he decides to go Tomb Kings, but going for the Vampire Counts instead. What will we play? The idea of Undead kiting Wood Elves makes you laugh. Yeah. It got the taste of their own medicine, I know. It was a surprisingly good kite too. That single rock in the middle of the battlefield saved my butt. That helped a lot. Now, Vampire Counts, obviously very scary. I think High Elves, pretty good choice. Lizardmen, maybe. Perhaps the Wood Elves. Now, if we do go Wood Elves, he can ban a lot of our very important units here to actually survive. That would be quite scary. And maybe I will go the High Elves. Perhaps this is a High Elf game. Vampire Counts are quite scary, though. Alternatively, we could even go Skaven if we wanted to meme a little bit. But I'm thinking either High Elves or Dark Elves. And probably High Elves is the best. Most meta pick out there. So let's try them out. Alternatively, I go Dwarves, but we already saw that earlier today, so no need to double down on that. And what will Maiden go for? What will he go for? If he bans Alarielle, we will go Techless. If he bans Techless, we will go Alarielle. The perfect situation. Let's see what else. We have many various archer builds that we can go here. We can even go for the Death Blob. Chariots to deal with Graveguard. I don't know how viable that is though. But you know, maybe we could do something like that. Usually the main things that you're worrying about though, it's probably Vargulfs. So whatever we do, we need some solution against those guys. He's considering his options, though. I'm thinking, I do really like my range builds against vampire counts, but there's also the options for boxes, of course, which are very strong. And he might ban Phoenix Guard. He might ban Dragon Princes, sort of like we saw earlier in the tournament. Maybe even the single entities, but there are a lot of single entities, so banning one of them doesn't really do you very much. Ooh, also White Kings, I forgot. White Kings are pretty brutal in this matchup too, as they will tear apart Phoenixes like no tomorrow. Their high melee defense works really well against the relatively low melee attack of these units. Let's see, but you know, how good is our Lion Chariots against Undead? Can someone fill me in? Has anyone tried to face Undead in the field of battle? Mano-y-mano? You know, full melee rush against Undead? Will he expect it? I feel like he probably wouldn't. So, you know, maybe we can do something like that. Go like, you know, go like White Lions. White Lions and Lions of Trace, right? Plow through the Graveguard. Reduce them down to single entities and then win from there. Is this a terrible idea? Maybe. I think we have the bans though. He bans Alarielle, Phoenix Guard, and White Lions. Which White Lions? I'm pretty sure he means these White Lions. But maybe he means these lions. Or maybe he means these lions. Okay, so he banned our two infantry units, the two strongest units of infantry that we can field. Now I'm interested to go for, you know, something like this, right? A really heavy melee build, you know? Go for just insane amounts of infantry that you've never seen for the High Elves. Because usually that's not what they try to deal with. He's banned Alarielle, I believe. Yep, he banned Alarielle. So the air game could be a tiny bit scarier. But what works well with a build like this? You know, we could go for a princess. Their constant poke damage is actually really nice. But then we would need to field a caster too. Always makes things a little bit scarier. But you know, I sort of like this idea. I like the idea of trying to face Undead head on. You know, this is a Halloween-themed tournament. We're not going to be running away this time. As we can take some speed boosts, the volley of arrows. And, you know, as long as she's distracting the Air Force, I think that's a decent place to be in. She's relatively cheap, too. Even on the Eagle, 1600. A little expensive, but still not too much. And, you know, I can even go some cavalry units. I already have a lot of elite stuff here. So, no need to go too hard on that front. But, you know, fit in 2 units of cavalry. Of course, I need a caster. We will not forget that. But yeah, single unit of Dragon Princes, maybe for some mass. We have a ton of spears to make sure that Maiden's cavalry is not especially scary. And then for the caster... let's see. What's really nice here? Maybe not beasts or shadows. Does Heavens have anything good? What, we got Wind Blast? I don't think she has anything really... Voice Cracks. I don't think she has anything really too good. I guess a Life Caster is the most generically strong thing you can take. And we'll take her on foot. You know what? We'll take her on a horse. So that she doesn't get ripped to shreds here. We don't need the regrowth. In fact, we can use some new Dwellers Below tech that we learned in a recent video. And then I think it's a pretty nice army. We have a lot of infantry, really strong front line of 4 units. The Rangers especially are going to trade quite well. And then the Spears covering the back. I'm pretty confident here, guys. We don't have any range units except for the Princess, but does that matter? Perhaps. Perhaps it does matter, but Something that I will figure out surely when we actually get into the match. Now, Silver and Guard. To shreds, you say? Yes. Silver and Guard, they do combo better with the chariots. I think maybe this is a really nice choice, since they can hold the line against Graveguard quite well. And then they have really good anti-large values too. So, you know, maybe I will opt in for a few more units of Silver and Guard. I need to make sure I don't run out of infantry though, as that's really scary. So, you know, maybe we don't even need Dragon Princes. Maybe we go all in on Silver and Guard, like a madman. Does this work? Does this work? We have a million spears. We have some Sword Masters of Hoeth and some mass. The goal is to kill all of his infantry and then win from there. I see no problems with this plan whatsoever. As long as the princess can actually kill off single entities here, which I'm only slightly doubtful of. Only the mildest amount. Can I replace this guy with anything? Guys, what should I replace my 1 unit of spears with? I could upgrade some guys to rangers. That seems like a good idea. Oh yeah, I'm really liking this build now. We got the ultimate infantry shredding build. We have no range units, and we just have some lion chariots for mass. Let's do it. Ready? Ready! Alright, Undead. Have at thee. This tournament is just it's a bucket of mind games, isn't it? Alright. Okay. So he banned our elite infantry, and instead we just went for elite infantry. I think this is the perfect counter pick. He'll never expect it. The Sword Masters should be pretty good though, and what's really nice is that the chariots, their mass, it should be able to knock down Vargulfs, I believe. I've seen Vargulfs get, you know, just tossed and turned by chariots pretty often. So I think we should be okay on that front. No amount of cavalry is going to break through this line either. So that's going to be quite wonderful. To shreds! To shreds! Oh man. Oh, the Futurama memes. Man, Futurama, what an amazing show. Good stuff. That was my childhood content. Loved it. Alright, what do we got? So we got our spear box here. We can go fairly wide. You might be wondering, oh, why go wide? Doesn't that expose your infantry to getting charged in the back? And the answer is no, because we simply just have so many spears, it doesn't matter that much. And by going wider, we split up his single entities and make life generally harder overall for our opponent here. We can go even a little bit wider, like so, because, you know, if things start cycle charging into the back, these spears in reserve can pretty easily just swoop right on in and do a good amount of cleanup. As cavalry generally get a little bit caught up in infantry after the charge, yeah, the spears should be able to pin them down and hopefully take out a lot of models. So we got the good luck, have fun from our opponent. We're both ready. And the insanity build against the vampire counts. It's gonna be a high elf build. We got a blood dragon vampire lord in the air. Thankfully not the one with Tempest. We're just gonna poke him down with our lord. Got a couple units of Graveguard. Nothing to worry about in the slightest. And as long as this Terrorgeist doesn't kill all of our guys, we should be fine. Some fell bats coming in to bother our lord. Gonna be a tiny bit annoying. Let's see, we might want to engage him in melee, maybe not. But yeah, we're gonna be facing the undead head on. We only have one range unit. Pretty insane, but he doesn't have that many targets. Breath attack on the Sword Masters. Good amount of damage, I will say. Nothing too crazy though. And we just want to get engaged as fast as possible. Meanwhile, our Lord is going to be poking away the Blood Dragon Vampire Lord. Getting in some pretty nice damage. And even the Chariots, they're going to plow through a couple units of zombies. Should work out quite well. Scabscrath drops, but we're not too worried about that in general. And our Lord just gonna slowly get more and more value over the course of the game, poking down that Blood Dragon Lord quite well. And over here, the Terrorgeist is gonna land. And that's gonna be a pretty nice situation for us, as we do manage to get a pretty nice surround here. We have our Chariots bogged down. We can throw down a pretty nice heal. And do I want the Dwellers? Not yet, not yet. We don't need to do that just yet. A really devastating breath attack, though, does drop onto these Swordmasters. While I was looking away, that's gonna hurt quite a bit. But overall, the infantry does go down. We have taken a lot of damage on the Swordmasters, but I'm not too worried just yet. Zombie Summon does drop. Not too much damage, though. And overall, we still have a healthy unit of Swordmasters. As for the zombies, we want to start clearing them out as quickly as possible. And the Chariots are just going to start plowing through the Graveguard, as is their directive here. Our caster, still fairly good on HP. And now we're looking for places to throw down those juicy Dwellers below. The Chariots, though, will have to be quite careful. Our Lord just flying around, trying to be as safe as possible. And the Undead forces, they are beginning to lose a lot of infantry. We have our Chariots, still at decent HP too. But the Cavalry, the Blood Knights, they're going to be a little bit scary. Let's go ahead and throw down... let's see, man, I really want a good blob here, but it's hard to find that. Our Lord, too, just getting stuck up on Fellbats, but that doesn't matter too much, as she will be coming in later in the battle to do well. And for the Blood Knights, we're just going to lure them into this blob over here with our Chariots. Then we can throw down the Dwellers below and hopefully get some pretty good pickings on them. As the Dwellers below, it does actually a decent amount of damage to Cavalry. And the Blood Knights should be taking quite a bit of heat. I don't think they'll be too comfortable in that situation by any means. And there we go. Lots of units crumbling right now. A bit of a blob forming up with our units, so we have to be a little bit careful. But look at that, the Blood Knights down to 15 models. Really nice Dwellers below there. Wow, I think that really worked out well. Breath attack lands on our infantry, but doesn't matter a whole ton. And our Lord is free from the Fellbats, which means now we just have a couple units of Graveguard left to deal with. And of course the dragons, which aren't that scary. Graveguard are getting healed up though. And we're going to try and take them out with the Chariots. Just give them a good death blow here, as we really want them out of the battlefield. We'll heal up our Swordmasters too, to try and pick them up. And with the Blood Knights down, I think they are going to crumble away, so I will disengage. Yeah, with the Blood Knights down, I'm feeling pretty confident here. You can see the Dragon Lord going to be chasing down my Lord in the air. But she's just a distraction for the Chariots to kill more Graveguard. And over here on the left flank, more Undead are crumbling away. We have a bit of a threat overload here, but the Dragon Lord gets a really nice hit on one of my Chariots. That's going to hurt a little bit. But as long as we can kill off the Graveguard units, I think we should be okay. Some more Fellbats. My Princess will win against that quite handily. Another heal on the Swordmasters to keep them up. And I'm specifically targeting down the regenerating Graveguard, as they will get more and more value if I'm not too careful. As for these spears, hopefully those Silverin come back. If they don't, that would be really bad. And the Dragon Lords are still a little bit of a threat. Of course, they got a bunch of breath attacks in, but if you take a look at our units, our infantry, it's mostly Silverin Guard right now. And Silverin, they will do really well against dragons. And eventually, too, they will run out of multi-entity models, so they won't be able to cycle charge either. And over here, another unit begins to crumble away. Our Princess still has decent ammunition, which means it is time, people, to begin the slowest poking down of a dragon you have ever seen. She has a good amount of ammunition. She's going to be slowly but surely poking away this Dragon Lord. She has tons of abilities, and they're going to have a hard time chasing off my units, simply because the vampire counts, well, they only have 100 models left, and most of that is simply zombies. Our Lord 2, nice hit on the Dragon Lord. He's gonna have to worry about healing himself up. And we still have 150 Silverin Guard. So the mad plan seems like it might have worked, but the game is not over just yet. You have to make sure that the single entity squad here doesn't just outright win for the vampire counts, but with all the Silverin Guards starting to pile in, I think we should be good. One thing to be careful though is to make sure that we don't group up too much. Those scab scrats are going to be a very big issue. But as long as our princess continues to poke away, we're good. She has homing arrows too, which makes it very hard to actually dodge the attacks. So that's going to be really nice. The chariots too for mass will not be going down anytime soon. And the Dragon Lord slowly but surely falling. This Terror Geist too, we can actually pin it down for our Silverin. But like I said, we have to really worry about those Scab Scraths. So let's go ahead and pull back and engage with some Rangers instead. I think that's going to be another zombie summon. So it'll be a little bit scary, but we have Rangers in reserve to go ahead and deal with that. And for our caster, she's safe. She's on a horse, she can disengage. She's going to be living her best life. And although the chariots will be taking a lot of damage here, it's going to be fine, as the chariots, they've more or less served their purpose. Having killed off all the Graveguard, they can just sit back, relax, and just use their mass to keep these dragons pinned down. This Dragon Lord might try to... He might try to take off into the air too, but I think the chariots should be okay there. But, you know, it gets a little bit scary. Just a little bit, because now we're seeing that we are beginning to run out of infantry. I think they are still Silverin Guard, so they are a lot stronger than they might seem on the actual battlefield. And we still have ammunition on our Lord. Another nice volley of arrows there. Brings the Dragon Lord down quite low. Only a couple more shots to finish them off, plus the chariots for mass. I think we should be okay, but can we prevent her, or him, from taking back up into the air? It looks like that's a no. Very unfortunate there, but overall not too much of a problem. The rest of the ground infantry goes down. Breath attack. Ooh, man, that was close. Very cinematic there. My Lord just barely manages to dodge that attack. And she will be doing fine. Now, like I said, the White Kings, always a little bit of an issue here in these late game situations. But we have endless cycle charging at our potential. And I know from personal experience that White Kings, or that very high melee defense units will lose to cycle charges from chariots. So I think we should be okay. My Lord too can take this fight in the air, as she is extremely high on HP. And with the Dragon Lord falling, I think we will have won it. With the most insane build I could imagine against the Vampire Counts. It was a basically full melee build against the Undead. But we've pinned them down with our infantry, and it will be a victory. They do have Scab Scraths, yes, that is indeed. So we gotta be a little bit careful, but yeah, we done did it. We done did it, guys. Let's go ahead and throw down another heal. Continue cycle charging with the chariots. We'll be good to go. Let's see. How am I? Wow, my Swordmasters took a beating this game. They did not have a good time, but I'm really happy with the Silverin and how they did. Kind of hard to see on this map. Yeah, the all the bodies too. It's making it a little bit weird, but we got there. GG, guys. GG, a 2-0 victory. We didn't get to the Monster Mash. But I think one thing that we did prove today is that Undead is terrible, apparently. Oh man, really fun tournament though. I definitely had a blast playing it. Really interesting builds too. We've seen some games that we've never seen before. Some insane values on units that you wouldn't expect. An upset, Ice Power getting taken out early today. Lots and lots of exciting things. Wow, look at that. Don't count out the princess. Her range shots, amazing. Absolutely amazing. Would highly recommend trying her out. Meanwhile, expected values for the Undead, the Graveguard, getting shut down hard by those chariots. And the Dwellers, the hero Dwellers, taking out those Blood Knights. Very good. So, with the tournament now over, I've done it. I've won my own tournament. So that means simply we close off now and give some special thanks to our wonderful patrons that have supported this tournament and the prize pool. So that being LoremasterOfSotek, who is very generously supporting the tournament now. Brandon Wagner, Romacarol, Bunny Arquette, AC Maiden, Bidlington, Jay Phoenix, Alex McCobb, and Jack. Now before we fully close on out, I want to shout out LoremasterOfSotek's Lorebeard's podcast, where he goes over a bunch of things, all things Warhammer. So check out those links if you're interested in seeing them. And finally, if you want to play on the ladder, you simply just need to join the Discord down below in the description. So I think that's about it. Thank you so much, guys, for coming in to watch, and I hope to see you next time in the next tournament, which should be on Sunday. So peace out and have a wonderful day.